Divine supply has your name on it. I want you to hear that again and let it land somewhere deeper than your ears. Divine supply has your name on it, not someone else's name. Not the name of the person who appears more qualified, more educated, more connected, more polished, more deserving by the world's narrow and inaccurate measure of who gets to receive. Your name. Written before you were born, written in the language of eternity, written by a hand that has never made a mistake, never forgotten a promise, never issued a decree that it failed to fulfill. Your name is on the supply. Your name is on the abundance. Your name is on the financial freedom, the overflow, the open doors, the unexpected blessings, the divine appointments, the miraculous reversals, the sudden breakthroughs, and every form of increase that the infinite has been preparing since before you took your first breath. It belongs to you. It was always yours. And today, right now, in this moment, you are going to stop waiting for it to find you by accident, and you are going to open your mouth and declare it into your atmosphere with the full authority of one who finally understands what they carry and who they are. You have been waiting long enough. You have been patient in the wrong way. There is a patience that is rooted in trust, and there is a patience that is rooted in passivity, and they look similar from the outside, but they produce entirely different results. The patience of trust speaks. It declares. It gives thanks in advance. It acts on what it believes, even before the evidence arrives. The patience of passivity goes quiet. It shrinks. It says maybe one day and someday, and when things change, and if things work out. That second patience is not faith. It is dressed in the clothes of faith, but underneath it is fear. Underneath it is the ancient lie that says you are not quite worthy enough, not quite ready enough, not quite positioned enough to step forward and claim what was already placed in your name before the foundation of the world. Today, that lie loses its grip on you. Today, you shed it. Today, you open your mouth, and the sound that comes out is not a timid request. It is not a desperate plea. It is not the whimper of someone who has been denied too long and no longer believes they deserve an answer. It is a declaration. It is a proclamation. It is the sound of a person who has remembered who they are and what they carry and who their source is. And that sound shakes the invisible and moves what nothing else could move. I declare now that my supply is released, not on its way eventually, not pending approval, not subject to review by circumstances or seasons or the opinions of other people. Released, right now, already in motion, already flowing through the channels of divine intelligence toward every area of my life that has known lack, that has known shortage, that has sat in the valley of not enough and cried out without a visible answer. The answer was never absent. The supply was never withheld. The source never ran dry. What was missing was not the provision. What was missing was the declaration. What was missing was the voice, the bold, unwavering voice of faith that rises up and says, I know who my source is, and I know that source never fails, and therefore I cannot be failed. I speak that now. My supply is released. Every financial channel in my life is opening now. Every blocked stream is clearing now. Every door that fear locked and doubt sealed and unbelief nailed shut is swinging open now, because I have spoken, and what I speak carries power, and what I declare in faith, the universe must answer. I know who my source is. This is the foundation of everything. This is the truth that changes everything. When you do not know your source, you look to people, and people disappoint you. You look to jobs, and jobs are eliminated. You look to economies, and economies shift. You look to circumstances, and circumstances change with the wind. But when you know that God is your source, when that truth is not a concept you have heard, but a reality you have internalized, a knowing so deep it has become the bedrock of your consciousness, then nothing in the visible world has the power to threaten your supply. Because your supply does not live in the visible world. Your supply lives in the infinite. It lives in the eternal. It lives in the realm that is not subject to recession or inflation or market collapse or political instability or the decisions of any person who has ever tried to block what was prepared for you. God is my source. I say it slowly. I let it settle. God is my source, not my employer, not my clients, not my business, not my investments, not my family, not any human being on the face of this earth. These are channels through which my supply may flow, but they are never the source. The source is God, and the source has not closed. The source has not reduced my allocation. The source has not forgotten my name. The source is open and full and flowing, and it is flowing toward me now with a force and a generosity that will leave me standing in wonder when I see it fully manifest. I stop waiting this day. I stop standing at the window of hope, watching for something to arrive that I have not yet spoken into existence. I stop being passive in the face of promises that were made for me to activate, not to receive by default while doing nothing. I understand now that declaration is an act of faith, and faith without corresponding action is incomplete. The action that faith requires first and foremost is the action of the mouth. It is the action of speaking the truth out loud, of naming what is yours, of calling forth what has been prepared, of standing in the invisible and commanding the visible to come into alignment with divine reality. I take that action now. I have taken it before, but today, I take it with a new level of understanding, a new depth of conviction, a new boldness that has been born from the realization that I have nothing to lose by declaring and everything to gain, and that the only reason I have not seen more of my supply manifest is that I have been too quiet for too long. I declare that wealth has my name on it. I declare that financial increase has my name on it. I declare that debt freedom has my name on it. I declare that overflow has my name on it. I declare that every good thing I have ever asked for, every provision I have ever prayed about, every dream I have carried, in the deepest, most secret chamber of my heart, has my name written on it, in the realm of the Spirit. And it is looking for me with the same intensity and the same longing with which I have been looking for. The supply and the receiver are moving toward each other. The blessing and the believer are converging. The provision and the person for whom it was prepared are being drawn together by the irresistible law of divine alignment, and nothing, not fear and not doubt, and not past failure, and not the length of the wait, and not the loudness of the lies, and not the smallness of the current evidence, nothing can stop what divine intelligence has set in motion for my life. I now speak to the delay, and I tell it that its assignment against me is over. I speak to the feeling of being overlooked, and I declare it has no legal standing in my life. I speak to the pattern of almost, of nearly, of so close, and yet not quite, and I declare that pattern is broken today by the power of my declaration and the faithfulness of my source. There will be no more almost, there will be no more not quite. There will be no more watching others step into the very thing I was qualified for and prepared for and had waited for, only to see it pass by my door without stopping. The season of passing by is finished. What is mine will not pass by me. What has my name on it will not mistake my door. What has been prepared for me will not be redirected to another address. I am found. I am seen. I am claimed by the supply that was always mine, and it is arriving now in perfect timing and perfect order and perfect amount. I speak to my finances, and I say, rise. I do not speak to them with anxiety. I do not look at them with shame. I do not bow my head before them as though they have dominion over me. I look at my financial life with the eyes of faith, not the eyes of current circumstances, not the eyes of bank balances and statements and numbers that represent only where I have been, not where I am going. And where I am going is upward. Where I am going is into the fullness of divine supply. Where I am going is into the abundance that has been prepared for me since before I entered this earth. Rise, I say to every financial figure in my life. Rise, I say to my income. Rise, I say to my savings. Rise, I say to my net worth. Rise, I say to my capacity to generate, to attract, to hold, to multiply, and to distribute wealth for the glory of the one who is the source of it all. Rise, not by my effort alone. not by the grinding, straining, exhausting force of human ambition operating from fear. Rise by the law of divine increase, operating through a life that is aligned with truth and submitted to the wisdom of the infinite. I refuse to stay small in my thinking about what I can receive. I refuse to cap my expectations at the level of what I have seen before, at the level of what my parents experienced, at the level of what my community normalized, at the level of what the voice of lack told me was the reasonable amount to hope for. God is not limited by what I have seen. God is not constrained by what my family experienced. God is not required to replicate the patterns of my past when it comes to what He delivers into my present and my future. The divine supply that has my name on it is not measured by the measuring tools of the natural world. It is measured by the infinite capacity of the source that prepared it. And the source is without limit. The source is without end. The source does not run calculations based on scarcity. The source operates from a place of absolute abundance, and it is from that place, from that limitless, inexhaustible overflow, that my supply was prepared, which means my supply is limitless, which means my supply is inexhaustible, which means the amount of good that can flow into my life is not determined by what I can currently imagine, but by the magnitude of the one who prepared it. I now take my hands off the timeline. This is one of the hardest declarations for a waiting heart to make, and it is one of the most powerful. I take my hands off the timeline. I release my grip on the calendar. I stop counting the days and the weeks and the months and the years, and calculating how long it should have taken based on my human understanding of how things work. Divine timing is not human timing. Divine order is not the order I would have arranged. The route that the supply takes to reach me is not always the route I would have mapped. And this is not a failure of the system. This is the genius of the system. Because divine intelligence sees further than I see. It sees around corners I cannot see around. It arranges intersections of blessing and opportunity and readiness in ways that my limited perspective cannot track or predict. And when the supply arrives, if I have stayed in faith rather than collapsing into the impatience of unbelief, I will look back at the timing and understand, even if only partially, why it came when it came and not a moment sooner. I trust the timing. I release the timeline. And in that release, I find a peace that actually accelerates the arrival, because peace is the posture of the receiver and anxiety is the posture of the one who blocks what they are trying to get. Let me declare something right now that some part of you has needed to hear for a long time. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not a case that the divine supply somehow overlooked or misplaced in the cosmic filing system of blessings. There is no cosmic filing system where your name got shuffled to the back. There is no divine registry where some paperwork got lost. There is no error in the system that caused your supply to be rerouted to someone else or indefinitely delayed without reason. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. The supply that has your name on it knows exactly where you are. It is not confused about your address. It is not uncertain about your identity. It is not questioning whether you qualify. It was sealed with your name before you were born, and it is navigating toward you right now through the perfect channels of divine wisdom, and it will arrive at precisely the right moment, with precisely the right amount, in precisely the right form for what your life requires. You are not behind. You are on time for your own divine appointment with abundance. I declare that I am a ready receiver. This matters more than most people understand. The supply can be released and still be delayed if the receiver is not in a position of readiness. Readiness is not about having everything figured out. Readiness is not about being perfect or polished or free from all the rough edges of human imperfection. Readiness is a posture of the heart. It is the posture that says, I am open. It is the posture that says, I expect good. It is the posture that says, I will not push away what comes to me with the invisible hands of guilt or unworthiness or the subconscious belief that if something good happens, there must be a catch. I release all of those postures now. I release the guilt. I release the unworthiness. I release the bracing for the catch. I open my hands. I open my heart. I open my life to receive fully and freely and without internal resistance. the divine supply that flows to me now. I am ready. I am open. I am expecting. Come. I speak now to the opportunities that carry financial breakthrough within them. They are circling. They are near. Some of them have already appeared in my life in subtle forms that I may have minimized, or dismissed, or not yet recognized for what they were. I ask for eyes to see them. I ask for the wisdom to recognize divine opportunity when it presents itself, even when it arrives in unexpected packaging, even when it does not look the way I imagined it would look, even when it requires a step of faith I did not feel entirely ready to take. I will not let opportunity pass by because it came dressed differently than I expected. I will not let divine supply be refused entry because it came through a door I had not specifically been watching. I remain open to every form, every channel, every surprising and unconventional and magnificent way that God chooses to deliver what has my name on it. Every opportunity is sacred. Every door is potential. Every conversation is possibly a divine connection. Every idea is possibly the seed of the harvest. I pay attention. I stay alert. I stay expectant. And I say yes to what is sent. I now speak to the ideas within me. They are not random. They are not coincidental. They are not the accidental firings of a bored imagination with nothing better to do. The ideas that come to me are divine deposits. They are installments of the supply that has my name on it, delivered not in the form of money first, but in the form of the seed that produces the money, the inspiration that generates the income, the creative insight that opens the financial door through which abundance then walks. Every idea I have is worth examining. Every creative impulse is worth honoring. Every time something rises in my spirit and says, "What if?" or "Try this," or "Go there," or "Say yes," or "Reach out," I pay attention because that voice is connected to a supply system that operates on a frequency far above the noise of my daily anxieties. The supply does not only come as money. Sometimes it comes as the idea that makes the money. Sometimes it comes as the connection that leads to the idea that makes the money. I receive all of it. I honor all of it. I act on all of it with wisdom and with courage. I declare that I walk in favor, not because I earned it, not because I performed well enough to deserve it, not because I checked every box and crossed every threshold of worthiness that human religion has invented to keep people striving and never arriving. I walk in favor because I am a child of the source. I walk in favor because grace is the operating system of the divine, not performance, not perfection, not the accumulation of enough good deeds to tip the scales. Grace. Unmerited, unearned, lavishly generous, extravagantly available grace. And grace says the supply is not contingent on your track record. Grace says the supply was prepared before your track record existed. Grace says the name written on the supply is yours because you belong to the source, and the source is good, and the source gives good gifts, and the source does not revoke what it has prepared based on the imperfection of the person for whom it was prepared. I walk in grace. I walk in favor. And favor makes things happen for me that I did not have the connections or the credentials or the qualifications to make happen in my own strength. I speak now to the financial harvest. It is forming. The seeds I have planted, the seeds of faith and prayer and giving and declaration and aligned action, they are not sitting dormant in the ground of the invisible. They are germinating. They are taking root. They are pushing upward through the soil of the spiritual realm and beginning to break the surface of the physical world in ways I may not yet fully see, but that are already real, already irreversible, already guaranteed by the law that says whatever a person plants, they will also harvest. I have planted abundance. I have planted faith. I have planted generosity. I have planted declaration after declaration of divine truth. And the harvest of those seeds is not maybe coming, it is coming, with the same certainty with which the sun rises, with the same reliability with which the seasons turn, with the same mathematical precision with which the law of sowing and reaping has operated since the beginning of all things. The harvest is coming. My financial harvest is coming. and it is larger than the seed. It is always larger than the seed. I now release every comparison. I release the habit of looking at another person's timeline of financial blessing and using it as evidence that something is wrong with mine. I release the practice of watching someone else step into abundance and feeling diminished by their increase rather than inspired by it. Someone else's harvest is not evidence that mine is late. Someone else's open door is not evidence that mine is closed. The divine supply system is not operating on a finite pool of resources that gets depleted every time someone else receives. There is no scarcity in the source. There is no shortage in the eternal. There is more than enough for every person who aligns with the truth and opens themselves to receive. Someone else's blessing is proof that blessing is real, that it is available, that it flows to those who believe. Their testimony is my encouragement. Their overflow is my preview. Their open door is evidence that the same God who opened it for them has doors prepared for me, and that my door is next. I speak to the supernatural acceleration of my financial life. There are seasons in the divine economy where what would normally take years is compressed into months, where what would normally take months is compressed into weeks, where what would normally require a long and laborious human process is accomplished by divine intervention in a single moment, in a single conversation, in a single phone call, in a single idea that arrives with the force and clarity of lightning and changes the entire trajectory of a financial life. I declare that I am in one of those seasons. I declare that the divine supply that has been in transit toward me is being accelerated. It is not moving on the timetable of natural processes alone. It is moving on the timetable of divine decree. And divine decree does not have to honor the slow, plodding rhythm of human systems when it has decided that the time for a person's breakthrough has arrived. My breakthrough has arrived. My season of acceleration has begun. What I could not make happen in years of striving is happening now by grace. What effort alone could not produce is being produced by the favor of the one who prepared my supply before I knew I needed it. I do not apologize for declaring big things. I do not shrink my expectations to a size that makes other people comfortable with the smallness of their own vision for their lives. I was given this faith for a reason. I was given this capacity to believe, to declare, to expect great things from a great source, for a purpose that is larger than my own comfort, and more significant than the approval of anyone who finds big faith threatening. My faith is big because my source is big. My declarations are bold because the one I am declaring to is not limited by the limits I can see. The supply that has my name on it is not a modest provision. It is not barely sufficient. It is not just enough to get by. It is the kind of supply that comes from a God of more than enough, from a universe of infinite generosity, from a source that does not measure out supply in cautious, careful, insufficient amounts, but pours it out with the extravagance of a creator who has no fear of running out. I receive extravagant supply. I receive more than enough. I receive abundantly above all I have asked or thought, according to the power that works in me. I receive it now. I receive it fully. I receive it with a shout of praise and a heart overflowing with gratitude. Money comes to me now, not later, not when I figure it out, not when the economy improves, not when I find the perfect strategy or meet the perfect mentor or launch the perfect product or wait for the perfect timing that I am engineering in my own understanding. Now, money comes to me now from sources I know and from sources I have not yet discovered. Money comes to me now through ideas I have already had and through ideas that are on their way to me. Money comes to me now through people who are already in my life and through people I have not yet met who are being divinely directed toward an encounter with me that will change both of our financial realities. Money comes to me now in large amounts and in small amounts, and I honor every form of its arrival because every dollar that touches my hand is evidence of the supply system that has my name on it working exactly as it was designed. I praise the arrival of every single dollar. I welcome it. I bless it. I release it when wisdom says to release it. I save it when wisdom says to save it. I invest it when wisdom says to invest it. And in every transaction, the law of divine increase is at work multiplying, adding, and orchestrating a financial life that exceeds every limit fear ever tried to place on me. I now speak to every person who has tried to delay my supply, every person who has held what belongs to me, every system that has withheld what was rightfully mine, every circumstance that has stood between me and the financial breakthrough that was prepared for my life. I speak to you not with bitterness. I speak to you not with anger or with the dark energy of resentment that would poison my own spirit and slow my own receiving. I speak to you with peace and with authority. What belongs to me cannot be permanently withheld. What has my name on it cannot be indefinitely redirected. Divine supply is not subject to the blocking power of human will or systemic injustice or any force that tries to stand between the believer and what the infinite has prepared. Every wall is coming down. Every blockage is dissolving. Every person or system that thought they had the final word over my financial life is about to discover that divine law has the final word, and divine law says the supply belongs to the one whose name it carries. It belongs to me. And it is finding me now regardless of every obstacle that was placed in its path. I speak now to my bloodline. I speak to the financial patterns that were handed down to me through generations of people who loved me, but who operated from the only financial consciousness they knew, which in many cases was a consciousness of barely enough, of careful saving because there might not be more, of never speaking too boldly about wealth because wanting more than what you had was somehow suspect or ungrateful or presumptuous. I honor those who came before me. I bless their names. I carry their love in my heart. But I do not carry their financial ceiling. I do not inherit their limitations as though they were laws. They were patterns, and patterns can be broken. They were beliefs, and beliefs can be replaced. They were ways of relating to money that served a purpose in their season and their circumstance, but that do not have to define my season or my circumstance. I am the one in my family line who breaks the pattern. I am the one who steps into a new financial reality. I am the one who declares that the generational story of not enough stops with me and a new story, the true story, the story of divine supply and overflow and abundant provision. That story starts with me and flows forward into every generation that comes after. I break every generational financial limitation now. I declare it done. I declare myself free. And I step forward into the financial inheritance that was always prepared for those willing to break ranks with the past and declare something new. I speak to my worth, and I want to spend time here because this is where so many declarations falter. People know all the right words. They understand the principles of abundance thinking. They have heard the teachings and read the books and listened to the declarations. But somewhere in the private interior of their hearts, there is a quiet, persistent whisper that says, "But not really for me. Not really. Not this much. Not this kind of wealth. Not these kinds of doors. Not this level of favor." And that whisper is the work of a wound, not the voice of truth. It is the accumulated voice of every time someone told you that you were too much or not enough. Every time you were passed over. Every time you put your hand up and were not called on. Every time you brought your best and it was received as ordinary. Every time the world communicated to you, directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously, that your value had a ceiling and you had already reached it. I speak to that wound now. I do not minimize it. I do not tell it that it was not real. It was real. The pain was real. The rejection was real. The messages were real, even when they were wrong. But the wound does not get to write the declaration. The wound does not get to determine what supply has my name on it. The source determines that, and the source determined it before the wound existed, before the rejection happened, before the person who communicated your smallness ever opened their mouth. The source looked at you before any of that and said, yes, abundantly, yes, overflow, yes, more than you can currently imagine, yes. And that yes has never been revoked, and it never will be. You are worth it. Not because you earned it, because you were created by a source that does not make things unworthy of supply. I now speak with fire to the spirit of procrastination that wraps itself around the declarations of people who know the truth but keep finding reasons not to fully step into it. Tomorrow I will declare more boldly. Next month, when things are better, I will believe more fully. Next year, when I can see more evidence, I will expect more completely. No. Today. Now. In this moment, exactly as it is, with the evidence looking exactly as it does, and the circumstances arranged exactly as they are, I declare my supply. I declare my increase. I declare my breakthrough. Not because the conditions are right, but because declaration is what creates the right conditions. Not because the evidence is there, but because declaration is what brings the evidence. The person who waits for evidence before they believe is living by sight, and sight is always delayed. Sight only shows you what has already happened in the invisible realm. Faith shows you what is happening right now and what is about to break through. I choose faith. I choose now. I choose to open my mouth today in these exact circumstances and declare that divine supply has my name on it, and I am not waiting another day to receive it in full. I speak to the prosperity of my home. I speak to the prosperity of the space I inhabit, the environment in which I live and rest and think and create. Let it be filled with peace. Let it be filled with beauty. Let it be a place that reflects the overflow of divine supply. Let the needs of my household be met completely, and let the desires of my household be granted generously. Let my home be a place where lack is a foreign language that no longer finds a translator. Let it be a sanctuary of abundance, of rest, of the quiet, settled assurance that the one who supplies has never forgotten this address and never will. I speak to every financial need connected to my home, and I declare it met. I speak to every bill, every mortgage, every rent, every utility, every maintenance cost, every expense connected to the place I call home, and I declare that the divine supply flowing into my life is more than sufficient to cover it all, and to leave an overflow that becomes a blessing to others. My home is a house of abundance. It is a dwelling of divine supply. It is a place where the evidence of God's faithfulness is visible in every room. I speak to my peace, because there is a kind of financial stress that steals not just your money, but your mind. It steals your sleep at 3 in the morning when the numbers play on the ceiling like a horror film you never chose to watch. It steals your presence in conversations because part of you is always running calculations in the background. It steals your joy in ordinary moments because the cloud of financial anxiety follows you into every room, into every celebration, into every moment of rest, reminding you of what is not yet settled and what is not yet covered and what is not yet resolved. I declare today that this thief no longer has access to my peace. I take my peace back. I take my sleep back. I take my presence back. I take my joy back. The numbers do not run my interior life any longer. The source runs my interior life, and the source is at peace. The source is not anxious about my supply. The source is not lying awake calculating whether there is enough. The source is infinite, and it is at rest, and because I am connected to that source, I am at rest too. Financial peace is part of my divine supply. It has my name on it right alongside the money. I receive the peace. I receive it as fiercely as I receive the financial increase. They come together, they belong together, and they are mine together now. I am grateful. I am deeply, profoundly, genuinely grateful for what is already in my hands, for the provision that has already arrived, for the blessings that are already present in my life, even in this season of believing for more. I do not despise where I am while I reach for where I am going. I honor the now. I bless the current. I give thanks for every evidence of supply already visible in my life, for the roof above me, and the food on my table, and the breath in my lungs, and the mind that works, and the body that carries me, and the relationships that sustain me, and every dollar that has ever come through my hands, regardless of how quickly it moved on. All of it is evidence of a supply system that has never fully abandoned me, even in the hardest seasons. I speak now to the divine intelligence that is arranging things on my behalf right now in the unseen. I speak to every detail being orchestrated for my financial breakthrough. I speak to every conversation being set up, every meeting being aligned, every decision being influenced, every door being prepared to swing open at the exact right moment. I may not be able to see it. I may not be able to track it or understand the mechanics of it or predict which direction it will come from, but I know it is happening. I know that the same intelligence that orchestrates the rising of the sun and the turning of the seasons and the precise and perfect functioning of a universe of incomprehensible complexity is applying that same meticulous attention to the details of my financial breakthrough. Nothing is being left to chance. Nothing is being overlooked. Every element is being carefully, lovingly, brilliantly arranged so that when my supply arrives, it arrives in the most perfect way, through the most perfect channel, at the most perfect moment. I trust that arrangement. I bless that arrangement. I give thanks for that arrangement, even before I can see it with my natural eyes. It is already done. Every detail is already placed. The divine intelligence has not missed a single thing. I speak now to the courage it takes to keep declaring when the evidence is slow, because there will be days when the declaration does not feel powerful. There will be mornings when the words come out and the feelings do not follow, and the mind says, "What is the point?" and the heart feels tired from the waiting. I speak to those days now, and I say, declare anyway, speak anyway. Open your mouth and release the truth, even when your emotions are not cooperating, because the declaration is not dependent on how you feel. The law of divine supply does not take days off because the speaker is having a difficult morning. The word goes out and does its work, regardless of the emotional state of the one who speaks it. This is the discipline of faith. This is the practice that separates those who eventually receive from those who give up in the waiting. Declare on the hard days. Declare in the tired moments. Declare when nothing seems to be moving, and the silence of the invisible feels like absence rather than preparation. Declare because the supply has your name on it, and it is moving toward you, and your declaration is the signal that says, "I am still here, I am still believing, I am still open, bring it to me now." I close this declaration with the full weight of everything I know about the source and the supply and the law and the grace that governs all things. I close it not as a person who is hoping something will eventually work out, but as a person who knows that what has been spoken in faith has already been accomplished in spirit. The declaration is complete. The word is out. The law is moving. The supply is flowing. The name written on the abundance is my name, and what carries my name is finding me now, in ways I expect and in ways I never could have imagined. Through channels I know, and through channels so creative and so surprising that when they appear, I will laugh with joy and weep with gratitude and stand in the worship of a source that never stopped working, even when I could not feel it. Working. That source is faithful. That source is generous. That source is mine. And I am that source's beloved, provided for, named, claimed, supplied, and overflowing. Today and every day that follows. Now and into every tomorrow that the source has already prepared. Divine supply has my name on it. I stop waiting. I start declaring. And the supply arrives. It arrives. It is here. Receive it now, and give thanks. Let this be the day everything shifts. Let this be the moment where the declaration becomes louder than the doubt. Let this be the hour where the faith rises higher than the fear, and the voice of abundance drowns out the voice of lack once and for all. Divine supply has your name on it. Say it. Say it out loud. Say it in the silence of your own mind if you cannot say it aloud right now, but let it move through you. Divine supply has my name on it. I am not waiting for it anymore. I am declaring it. I am claiming it. I am opening every door of my consciousness to receive it. I am standing in the posture of expectancy and gratitude and faith. And the supply is moving. The supply is arriving. The supply is here. It is here in the invisible, and it is breaking through to the visible, and I will see it with my own eyes and hold it in my own hands and use it for every purpose the divine prepared when it placed my name upon it. I receive my supply. I receive my abundance. I receive my financial breakthrough. I receive my open doors. I receive my unexpected blessings. I receive my divine appointments. I receive my ideas, my opportunities, my connections, my increase. I receive it all, with both hands open and a heart overflowing with praise. The declaration has been made. The word has gone out. And the word does not return empty. What I have declared is already done in the realm of spirit, and it is manifesting now in the realm of the physical. My financial life will never be the same. I will never be the same. From this moment forward, I am the person who knows that divine supply has their name on it, and who never again stands in passivity waiting for what they should be declaring into existence. I declare, I receive, I give thanks, and the supply flows, and it flows, and it flows. Now and forever, in perfect ways, under grace, by divine order, for divine purpose, in the name of the source that never fails, never forgets, and never runs out. It is done. And I receive it now.
Life is not a battlefield but a great game of mind and spirit, a chessboard upon which the invisible forces of thought, faith, and divine law move us toward our appointed victories. The world would tell you that wealth is earned through strain, struggle, and ceaseless labor. But the divine whispers a different story. Abundance is the natural birthright of the soul attuned to truth. To those who dare to step out of fear and into the light of faith, riches flow not as a trickle, but as a river, unending and overflowing. Money is not wicked, nor is it a false idol when placed in its rightful order. It is simply a symbol, a token of divine supply, drawn into your life according to the pictures you hold in your heart. The universe is an inexhaustible storehouse, and God is the eternal banker who never refuses a worthy request. Yet this storehouse does not open its doors to doubt, complaint, or disbelief. It opens when the soul aligns itself with spiritual law, when it speaks the word of faith with unwavering conviction. The road to millions is not paved with fear, nor is it lined with anxious toil. It is carved by the spoken word, the vision held in unwavering clarity, and the actions that proceed from inner certainty rather than outer desperation. For it is never the outer that shapes the inner, but the inner that shapes the outer. The individual who masters his thought life, who cleanses his tongue of defeat and fills it with declarations of victory, has already written his fortune in the unseen. What is written there must, by divine law, appear in the visible world. There are 5 principles, 5 steps, 5 living truths that, when embraced and practiced, set the stage for the miraculous. They are not tricks, nor are they schemes of man. They are spiritual laws as ancient as the stars, and as present as your next breath. To follow them is to align yourself with the very current of divine prosperity, the unseen river that flows beneath all appearances. When you place yourself in harmony with these laws, the riches of the universe are drawn to you as iron to the magnet, as ships to the lighthouse, as rivers to the sea. Your words are your wand, and with them you write the script of your life. Speak lack and you summon lack. Speak plenty and plenty hastens to meet you. Your thoughts are seeds planted in the soil of the subconscious. They cannot help but sprout in kind. And your actions, when born of faith instead of fear, are the final strokes of the artist's brush that complete the picture of wealth you hold within. Therefore, let us look with new eyes, listen with new ears, and prepare our hearts to receive. For the same power that set the stars in their places waits to set riches in your hands, if only you will dare to follow the 5 things that open the door to divine supply. To speak words of wealth, never of lack. is to recognize the hidden power that rests in every syllable we utter. Words are not empty sounds, they are living forces, creative currents that shape the unseen substance of life. When you say, I can, you open a door. When you say, I cannot, you close it. Every phrase you speak sends forth a vibration that either summons abundance or repels it, and the universe is impartial in its response. It simply reflects back the nature of the command you have given. Just as a seed planted in the soil cannot help but produce after its kind, so the words spoken into the ethers must return to you multiplied, carrying with them the essence of the thought from which they were born. To speak wealth is to plant seeds of wealth. To speak lack is to plant weeds of limitation, and the harvest will always match the seed. When you say, I never have enough, you have unknowingly declared a decree, and life must obey. When you speak, money comes to me easily and freely, you have set in motion the law of supply, and opportunities begin to arrange themselves to prove your words true. This is not imagination, nor is it vain repetition. It is spiritual law. Every word carries a pattern, and the pattern will reproduce itself in your experience. The tongue is like the rudder of a ship, small but mighty, directing the whole course of your journey. If it continually points toward poverty, no amount of effort can shift you into prosperity, for the unseen blueprint has already been drawn by your speech. But if the tongue is trained to speak only of plenty, to declare abundance where none is visible, then the blueprint is altered, and life must rise to meet the new design. The untrained mind falls easily into idle talk. It mutters complaints, repeats the chorus of limitation heard from others, and treats words as if they had no consequence. But once you awaken to the power of speech, you realize that idle talk is no idle matter. Every casual remark is a seed, every careless complaint a decree. To say, I am broke, even in jest, is to call upon the invisible forces to arrange themselves around your poverty. To laugh and repeat, nothing ever works out for me, is to give authority to failure. The wise soul, once aware of this law, begins to guard the lips as carefully as a jeweler guards precious stones. Nothing is allowed to pass them that does not carry the vibration of wealth, joy, and success. It may seem strange at first to speak prosperity in the midst of lack. It may feel unnatural to declare, I am rich, when your purse is empty. Yet this is precisely the turning point, for you are not describing the visible. You are creating the invisible which will later appear. Faith speaks of things not yet seen as though they were, and the spoken word clothes them with form. The person who waits to see wealth before speaking it has missed the law entirely. You do not wait for the harvest to believe in the seed. You plant, and you speak over that seed as though the harvest were already here. So too with wealth. You speak words of wealth while appearances contradict, and in due time appearances are compelled to align. Consider how often people tie themselves to lack with their own tongues. They say, it's too expensive, and so it remains forever beyond their reach. They sigh, I can't afford it, and their very cells memorize the rhythm of deprivation. They tell stories of hardship and repeat them until those stories become chains. Yet all along, another choice was available to reverse the words. To say instead, everything I need comes to me in perfect time. To say, there is always a way, and it reveals itself now. To say, money is drawn to me as a magnet draws iron. With such declarations, the atmosphere shifts, for words not only call forth events, they transform the inner vibration of the speaker. The mind believes the tongue, and the body follows suit, aligning actions and perceptions with the words spoken. The practice of speaking wealth is not about shouting affirmations into the air without feeling. It is about speaking with authority, as one who knows the law and expects its fulfillment. A king does not beg his servants, he commands them. A creator does not plead with substance, he shapes it. In the same way, your words must carry the calm assurance of one who knows they are backed by the infinite supply of God. When you say, I am wealthy, you are not hoping or wishing, you are declaring an eternal truth that already exists in the unseen. With repetition, The subconscious accepts it as fact, and once accepted, it cannot help but arrange circumstances to prove it so. You may notice resistance at first. Old patterns of thought rise up and contradict the new words. The mind whispers, "But the bills are unpaid." Or, "You've never had money before." These are the echoes of the past, not the voice of the law. Pay them no heed. Continue speaking wealth with firmness. Just as a gardener must pull up weeds day after day until the soil is cleared, so must you uproot words of lack whenever they appear. Replace them instantly with words of abundance. Say, "I am always provided for." Say, "My wealth increases daily." Say, "The riches of heaven are mine now." Over time, the soil of the mind becomes rich, fertile, and free of contradiction, and the new harvest cannot be prevented. It is not enough to speak wealth only in moments of meditation. The true mastery is to let every word of daily life be colored with prosperity. When someone asks, "How are you?" let your reply be, "I am blessed beyond measure." When faced with a challenge, say, "This is working out for my highest good." When tempted to complain of expenses, instead declare, "Every dollar I spend returns to me multiplied." By weaving words of wealth into ordinary conversation, you make prosperity the constant atmosphere in which you live. Soon, others will notice and echo your speech, for the vibration is contagious. Your words not only change your life but ripple outward, elevating those around you. Children understand this principle better than most. They speak boldly of what they want, imagining themselves already in possession of it. They say, "I have a castle," and in their minds it is so. They do not weigh probabilities or calculate costs, they live by the law of imagination and word. Adults, dulled by years of doubt, forget this natural power. To return to it is not to be childish, but to reclaim the creative innocence that aligns perfectly with divine law. To say, "I am rich," with childlike faith is to open the gates of heaven. Every fortune begins with a word, the skyscraper begins with a declaration. The business begins with a vision spoken aloud. The inheritance of spiritual riches is unlocked with affirmations of truth. History is filled with those who spoke their wealth long before it appeared, who dared to utter words of greatness when circumstances mocked them. In time, circumstances bowed to their words, as they always must. For the spoken word, charged with faith, is stronger than any visible condition. To hold a clear vision of abundance is to step into the realm of creation itself, for nothing comes into form without first being pictured in the mind. Vision is the mold into which divine substance is poured. The universe does not respond to confusion, to wavering images, or to shifting desires. It responds to the picture that is steady, unwavering, and alive with feeling. The person who drifts from thought to thought, one day imagining wealth, and the next day imagining poverty, scatters their creative power and delays the manifestation of good. But the one who fixes the inner eye upon abundance, who paints it in vivid colors upon the canvas of imagination, begins to draw it into experience with irresistible force. The imagination is not a child's toy, but the workshop of spirit. What you picture with clarity and hold with persistence must take form. For the law of mind is that the image impressed upon the subconscious must reproduce itself in the outer world. You cannot picture lack and receive wealth, any more than you can plant thorns and harvest roses. The subconscious is fertile soil, and it grows whatever seeds are given. If you hold before it the picture of an empty wallet, it will reproduce conditions to match. If you hold before it the picture of riches flowing freely, of doors opening, of opportunities arriving, it will shape circumstances to deliver the harvest. Clarity of vision is the great secret. Many people say they want more money, but they picture debt. They say they desire success, but they picture failure. They long for freedom, but they rehearse images of limitation. The mind cannot serve two masters. It cannot bring forth two contradictory pictures. The stronger vision will prevail. Therefore, it is essential to cleanse the inner screen of every picture of want, replacing them with visions of abundance so radiant, so consistent, that no shadow can remain. When the inner picture is clear, the outer form must appear in like manner. To hold a clear vision is not merely to daydream, but to know with certainty. It is not fantasy but faith. It is not idle wishing but conscious creation. When you close your eyes and see yourself walking in wealth, dwelling in comfort, and living as one who is fully provided for, you are not pretending. You are contacting the eternal realm where these realities already exist, waiting for the doorway of belief to bring them forth. The unseen is more real than the seen, for the seen is but the result of the unseen. To dwell in the unseen with clarity is to prepare the way for the seen to shift accordingly. The mind must be trained in this discipline. Left to itself, it wanders into fear, rehearses worry, paints grim pictures of what may go wrong. Each of these pictures is a misuse of the creative faculty. To hold a clear vision of abundance requires the deliberate act of replacing every fearful image with a radiant one. When the mind shows you bills, replace them with the vision of those bills marked, paid in full. When it shows you lack, replace it with the picture of overflowing supply. When it tempts you to imagine failure, paint instead the vivid scene of triumph. This continual correction strengthens the inner eye, until it learns to hold abundance as naturally as the body holds its breath. The clearer the vision, the faster the manifestation. A vague desire produces vague results, but a sharp image produces sharp outcomes. If you desire wealth, picture the experience in detail. See yourself opening the mailbox and finding checks. See yourself signing contracts that bring increase. See yourself entering a home filled with beauty, walking in peace, moving with freedom. Feel the joy, hear the laughter, sense the security. Make the vision real in every sense, for the subconscious responds most powerfully to pictures charged with emotion. Cold images fade, but images warmed with feeling imprint themselves deeply and call forth their likeness. Doubt blurs the vision, and fear fogs it. One moment of disbelief can cloud the clear image, just as smoke obscures a window. That is why faith must accompany vision. Faith keeps the image steady, bright and alive, even when outer appearances contradict it. You may see lack in the outer, yet hold abundance within. You may face obstacles without, yet keep the vision clear within. In time, the inner vision conquers the outer condition, for the inner is cause and the outer is effect. No effect can resist its cause forever. The great mistake is to let outer appearances dictate the inner picture. This is like allowing the mirror to tell the face what expression to wear. The mirror only reflects, it does not create. In the same way, the outer world only reflects the inner vision. To change the reflection, change the picture within. The wise do not let circumstances sway their vision. They hold to abundance though appearances scream otherwise. They continue to picture wealth even in the presence of lack, knowing that the lack is but a shadow, while the vision is the substance. Clarity requires repetition. A single image held once may not impress the subconscious deeply enough to reproduce. Just as a photograph develops through repeated exposure, so the vision of abundance develops through daily practice. Morning and night, and in every idle moment, call forth the image of wealth. See it, feel it, affirm it, until it becomes more familiar than any picture of lack. Soon it no longer feels like imagination but reality, and when it feels real within, the outer must conform. The act of holding a clear vision is also an act of protection. It shields the mind from the invasion of negative images. When your inner screen is filled with light, darkness cannot enter. When your picture is fixed upon wealth, no suggestion of poverty can lodge there. In this way, the vision not only creates abundance but guards against lack. It becomes a fortress of thought, an anchor of certainty, a beacon that guides the unseen forces of supply to your door. Every great achievement in history began with a vision. The architect first saw the building within before it rose without. The inventor pictured the machine within before it took shape without. The leader saw the victory within before it appeared without. Wealth is no different. The millionaire first sees the riches within before they arrive without. To hold a clear vision of abundance is to follow the same law. To work with the same creative power, to join in the eternal process by which the invisible becomes visible, to walk in faith not in fear. is to choose the higher path, where the invisible becomes more real than the visible, and where divine law is trusted above appearances. Faith is the bridge between the seen and the unseen, the channel through which the infinite flows into the finite. Fear closes that channel, binding the soul in limitation and shadow, while faith opens it wide, inviting miracles to pour through. Each step of life is taken either in faith or in fear, and the results always reveal which companion is guiding the journey. The one who walks in fear finds doors closed, opportunities delayed, and strength diminished. The one who walks in faith sees doors open of their own accord, resources arrive in perfect time, and strength renewed in every trial. Faith is not blind. It is inner sight. It is the recognition that there is a higher order at work, beyond what the senses can register. To walk in faith is to know that supply is already prepared, that solutions are already given, that the way is already made, even if the outer path seems hidden. Fear stares at the obstacle and declares it insurmountable. Faith looks through the obstacle and knows it must dissolve. Fear rehearses the worst outcomes, weaving images of disaster that imprison the mind. Faith rehearses only victory, holding to the image of triumph until it becomes the only possible conclusion. The difference between the two paths is not circumstance but choice. Two people may face the same condition, yet one shrinks in fear while the other rises in faith. The fearful one speaks words of defeat, attracts more defeat, and confirms their own prophecy. The faithful one speaks words of victory, attracts opportunities, and fulfills their decree. The outer condition has no power of its own. It only reflects the inner state. Fear magnifies lack until it appears overwhelming. Faith magnifies abundance until it becomes irresistible. To walk in faith requires discipline, for the mind is easily tempted by fear. Fear often disguises itself as caution, reason, or even wisdom. It whispers, "You must prepare for the worst." And in preparing, one secretly invites the very thing feared. Faith does not prepare for the worst. It prepares for the best. It does not calculate what may go wrong but affirms what must go right. The faithful heart looks upon challenges not as threats but as opportunities for divine power to reveal itself. Where fear contracts and closes, faith expands and opens. Where fear hesitates, faith advances. Where fear clutches tightly, faith releases freely. The body itself responds to the difference. Fear quickens the pulse, tightens the breath, and drains energy. Faith calms the heart, deepens the breath, and renews energy. Fear produces confusion in thought, scattering attention and weakening decision. Faith brings clarity, steadiness, and assurance. Even on the physical plane, the walk of faith creates strength, while the walk of fear creates weakness. What is true for the body is true for the circumstances of life. Fear scatters, faith gathers. Fear divides, faith unites. Fear diminishes, faith increases. To walk in faith is to trust divine order even when appearances are chaotic. The fearful mind demands to know every step before taking the first, but faith takes the step and allows the next to be revealed. Just as a traveler walking by lantern sees only a few feet ahead, yet reaches the destination in time, so the faithful soul does not demand to see the whole journey at once. It is enough to see the next step. For the law of supply reveals the way piece by piece, moment by moment. To refuse to move until the whole path is visible is to remain stuck. To move with faith in the unseen is to progress steadily toward fulfillment. Fear often masquerades as prudence, but prudence without faith is only stagnation. Fear insists on guarantees, contracts, assurances, but life rarely offers such securities. The only true guarantee is divine law itself, the certainty that what is spoken in faith, believed in faith, and acted upon in faith must manifest. To trust this guarantee is to walk with freedom, to release the chains of worry, and to know that every step is supported. Even if the ground seems unstable, faith makes it firm beneath your feet. Even if the way appears blocked, faith causes the obstacle to dissolve. Even if resources seem absent, faith causes them to appear. The imagination plays a central role in this walk. Fear fills the imagination with pictures of loss, debt, and danger. Faith fills the imagination with pictures of wealth, success, and safety. Whichever pictures dominate the inner eye shape the outer world. Therefore, the one who walks in faith keeps the imagination sanctified, refusing to let fear draw its dark sketches. Instead, the canvas of thought is filled daily with radiant visions of abundance, health, and joy. These visions, held with unwavering faith, become the pattern for life to follow. To walk in faith is not to ignore outer conditions, but to interpret them rightly. Where fear sees lack, faith sees temporary shadow awaiting light. Where fear sees endings, faith sees new beginnings. Where fear sees danger, faith sees protection. Outer conditions are but symbols, and the faithful soul reads them with the language of spirit, not the language of fear. Just as a skilled reader interprets words on a page with understanding, so the faithful interpret circumstances as passing signs, never ultimate realities. Fear enslaves by focusing on the self. What will happen to me? What if I lose? What if I fail? Faith liberates by focusing on the infinite. What God has prepared, what good must unfold, what law cannot fail. The self is small and fragile, but the infinite is vast and unshakable. To shift from fear to faith is to move from dependence on limited self to dependence on unlimited supply. It is to stop asking, "How can I?" and start affirming, "It is already done." This shift transforms every situation. For the source of supply is no longer measured by personal resources, but by divine abundance. The practice of walking in faith is strengthened by word and action. Words of fear must be replaced by words of faith until the tongue becomes an instrument of power. Instead of saying, "I don't know how this will work," say, "The way is made clear before me." Instead of saying, "I cannot afford this," say, "All that I need is provided." Each word of faith is a step along the path, each affirmation a paving stone laid beneath your feet. Action, too, must follow faith. To believe without acting is to halt the process halfway. To act in faith, even in small ways, is to demonstrate trust in divine order, and the universe responds to such demonstrations with multiplied supply. Every moment presents the choice between fear and faith. Each thought, each word, each action tips the scale. To walk in faith is not a single act, but a continual decision, a steady practice of aligning with truth over illusion, with love over fear, with abundance over lack. It is the conscious choice to keep eyes fixed on the unseen supply rather than the seen deficiency, to keep the heart anchored in assurance rather than tossed by doubt. The more this choice is made, the more natural it becomes, until faith is not an effort but a habit, not a struggle but a way of life. To give freely and receive freely is to understand the rhythm of life, for all of creation moves in cycles of outflow and inflow. The tides of the sea, the breath of the lungs, the seasons of the earth, all testify to the law of circulation. To hold back in fear, to clutch what you have with tight hands, interrupts this divine rhythm and produces stagnation. But to give with faith, to release with joy, to let substance flow outward without resistance, is to keep yourself in harmony with the infinite source that never runs dry. What flows out must return multiplied, for the universe abhors a vacuum, and every space you create through giving must be filled again with greater supply. The fearful soul says, "I cannot give, for I may not have enough left." The faithful soul says, "I give, for I know there is always more to come." One lives in the shadow of lack, the other in the sunlight of abundance. The difference is not in their circumstances, but in their consciousness. The one who fears to give binds themselves to the very lack they dread, for their withholding shuts the door to inflow. The one who gives freely unlocks the treasure house of heaven, and resources hasten to fill their open hands. To give freely is not only about money, though money is often the symbol through which this law is most clearly seen. It includes time, kindness, encouragement, and service. Every act of giving sends forth energy, and energy cannot be lost. It must return in kind, often in unexpected ways, often from sources the giver could never have predicted. A word of encouragement spoken in faith may return years later as a door of opportunity. A gift of money given in love may return many times greater as financial increase. The act of release itself is the signal to the universe that you trust divine supply, and trust is always rewarded. The manner of giving is as important as the act. To give grudgingly, with complaint or fear, is to sow seeds in poor soil. The harvest is meager because the heart was closed. To give freely joyfully, with the inner declaration, I release this to multiply and return, is to sow in fertile ground. The harvest must be abundant because the act was aligned with divine law. It is not the size of the gift, but the spirit of the giver that determines the increase. A small gift, given with joy and faith, carries more power than a large one given with doubt. Receiving freely is the other half of the law, and many fail here. They may give, but when abundance returns, they resist it with guilt, unworthiness, or disbelief. They say, I cannot accept this, or I do not deserve so much. In doing so, they block the very blessing they have summoned. Just as one must open the hand to release, so must one open the hand to receive. To give without receiving is to break the circle, and to receive without giving is the same. Harmony requires both. There are those who pride themselves on always being the giver, never the receiver. They think it noble to refuse gifts, to decline help, to bear the burden alone. Yet this is only pride disguised as humility. For it denies others the joy of giving, and it interrupts the rhythm of circulation. To receive freely is to honor the giver, to complete the cycle, to allow the universe to work through others on your behalf. To refuse is to close a door that God has opened. To accept with gratitude is to keep the channel clear for more to flow. The law of giving and receiving is not barter, not a trade made with expectation of exact return. It is a spiritual principle, operating beyond calculation. You may give in one direction and receive from another. You may sow seeds of kindness into one life and reap abundance from a completely different source. The channels may change, but the law is unfailing: what you release returns. To give and receive freely is to stop concerning yourself with how the return will come, and to rest in certainty that it must come. Fear of loss is the greatest hindrance to giving. People say, if I give, I will have less. Yet the truth is the opposite. If you give, you create space for more. If you withhold, you bind yourself to less. The hand that clutches tightly cannot receive. The hand that opens freely is ready to be filled. This is not theory but law, demonstrated again and again by those who dare to test it. Countless lives testify that when they released in faith, resources multiplied, opportunities appeared, doors opened. The moment of release is the moment of expansion. Generosity must be guided by wisdom. To give freely does not mean to give recklessly or to feed what is destructive. True giving aligns with divine order. It uplifts, it blesses. It multiplies good. To pour out without discernment, to support what diminishes or enslaves, is not giving but scattering. The soul attuned to spirit knows where to release and where to refrain. Divine guidance directs the hand, ensuring that every gift sown is planted in soil that will yield a harvest of blessing. Receiving also requires faith. Often the blessing comes in ways that seem small or ordinary, and the ungrateful soul overlooks it, waiting for something grand. But the one who receives freely gives thanks for every token, knowing that each is a sign of greater supply on the way. Gratitude is the magnet that draws increase. To say, thank you, with sincerity is to multiply the inflow, for gratitude signals readiness for more. The ungrateful block the current, but the grateful accelerate it. The cycle of giving and receiving is endless. The more you give, the more you receive. The more you receive, the more you can give. Each turn of the cycle enlarges the capacity, expanding the flow until it becomes a river of abundance. To live within this rhythm is to live without fear, for you know that supply is never ending. Just as the ocean does not diminish when a wave crashes upon the shore, so the infinite storehouse of God is not reduced when you give. The wave returns, and so does your substance, greater than before. This law also operates in thought and word. To give freely of affirmations of wealth, to speak words of encouragement and prosperity, is to plant seeds that return as experiences of wealth. To withhold words of blessing, to stay silent when affirmation could have been spoken, is to miss opportunities for increase. Every thought released is a gift to the unseen, and every thought returns in kind. To give thoughts of abundance is to receive experiences of abundance. To give thoughts of fear is to receive experiences of fear. Thus, the law of giving and receiving governs not only the material, but the mental and spiritual as well. To align with divine order in every step is to move in harmony with the unseen intelligence that governs all things, the wisdom that arranges the stars in their courses and directs the seasons in perfect rhythm. Divine order is the invisible blueprint of life, the pattern of perfection already established in the mind of God. When you align yourself with it, every path is made straight, every obstacle dissolves. Every need is met in time and in full. When you resist it, when you try to force your will against the higher law, you create friction, delay, and confusion. To live in alignment is to walk with ease, for you are no longer struggling against the current, but flowing with it, carried by a force greater than yourself. The evidence of divine order is all around. Night follows day, spring follows winter, the tides rise and fall. The planets circle in their orbits without missing a beat. The same law that governs these great movements governs your life as well. The difference is that nature obeys without resistance, while human beings often interfere with doubt, fear, and stubborn will. Yet the law is constant. And the moment you yield to it, the moment you say, "I trust the perfect order of my life," the current begins to carry you where you are meant to go. The resistance falls away, and what once seemed difficult begins to unfold with effortless precision. Alignment with divine order is not passivity, nor is it idleness. It is the conscious act of attunement, of listening inwardly, and moving according to guidance rather than impulse. The fearful soul rushes forward in haste, pushing doors open before they are ready. The faithful soul waits for the right time, knowing that divine order is never late and never early. Each step is taken at the perfect moment, and because it is the right step at the right time, it produces results that hasty effort could never accomplish. What seems delayed is only preparation. What seems denied is only redirection. Divine order knows what the mind does not, and those who trust it find themselves led into abundance beyond what they could have planned. Every difficulty carries within it the seed of order, though fear sees only disorder. A closed door is not chaos but protection, keeping you from paths that would harm. A delay is not confusion but alignment, preparing you for the right circumstances. Even apparent loss is not disorder but pruning, removing what no longer serves so that increase can come in its place. To align with divine order is to interpret life with this higher vision, to see beneath appearances to the truth that all things are working together for good. Fear cries, "This is disaster." Faith whispers, "This too is divine order." In time the whisper proves true, for what first seemed misfortune reveals itself as blessing in disguise. Alignment is a matter of thought, word, and deed. In thought it means keeping the mind fixed on harmony, refusing to indulge confusion or disorder. When the mind is filled with worry, it is like a compass that spins wildly, unable to point true north. But when the mind rests in assurance, the inner compass aligns and the path becomes clear. In word, it means speaking only that which agrees with order. To say, "Everything is falling apart," is to affirm disorder. To say, "Everything is falling into place," is to affirm order. The universe listens to your declarations and shapes itself accordingly. Indeed, it means acting in ways that harmonize with truth, keeping your affairs in order, fulfilling obligations, maintaining integrity, and moving with patience rather than panic. Each of these actions aligns you with the higher law, and the higher law rewards with increase. Disorder arises from resistance, from the attempt to control outcomes that belong to God. The ego insists, it must happen this way, at this time, in this manner. But divine order may have a better way, a faster route, a richer outcome. To cling to your own plan is to block the greater plan. Alignment requires surrender, not resignation, but joyful trust. It is the surrender of a child who lets the parent guide, knowing that love and wisdom see farther. When you release the rigid grip of your own timetable, you make space for divine timing to operate, and divine timing never fails. Alignment also requires discernment. Many voices clamor for attention, fear, desire, habit, memory. But the voice of divine order is calm, steady, and sure. It does not shout, it whispers. To hear it, you must quiet the noise within. Set aside the constant chatter of doubt, and listen with the ear of the heart. Often it speaks as intuition, a sudden knowing, a gentle nudge, an inner peace about one path and unrest about another. To ignore these signals is to walk against order. To follow them is to walk within it. Those who cultivate sensitivity to this guidance find that they are led step by step, never forsaken, never lost, always brought to the right place at the right time. Prosperity depends upon this alignment. Money flows most easily where there is order, not chaos. Opportunities come most readily where life is in harmony, not confusion. To align with divine order is to keep your affairs prepared for increase. Just as a farmer prepares the fields before the rain, so must you prepare your life for the blessings you seek. Order in the mind, order in the words, order in the environment. All these create a channel through which wealth can flow. Disorder clogs the channel, but alignment clears it. Many have found that when they put their house in order, when they clear away clutter, when they organize their finances, opportunities for abundance appear almost immediately, for they have symbolically aligned the outer with the inner. The habit of alignment transforms even small decisions. Each day presents countless choices, and each choice is an opportunity to walk in harmony with the higher law. To pause and ask, is this in divine order? Before acting is to invite guidance. Often the answer comes as peace or unrest, clarity or confusion. Peace indicates alignment, unrest signals misstep. Over time, this practice becomes natural, and the soul moves in rhythm with the law without strain, just as the body walks without conscious effort once it has learned. When you are aligned, synchronicities multiply. People appear at the right moment. Ideas come at the right time, resources arrive just as needed. What others call coincidence is recognized by the aligned soul as evidence of divine order. Life becomes a flow rather than a struggle, a series of open doors rather than walls. This is not because challenges vanish, but because every challenge is met at the appointed time with the appointed strength, and each turns into an opportunity for greater increase. To align with divine order in every step is to live as though supported by unseen hands, guided by unseen wisdom, supplied by unseen riches. It is to walk in harmony with the law that governs all creation, confident that each movement forward is part of a larger design. It is to rest in assurance that nothing is random, nothing is wasted, nothing is outside the reach of divine arrangement. Life is a game of consciousness, a game in which the invisible laws of mind create the visible substance of experience. Every soul stands at the doorway of divine supply, waiting only for recognition, for faith, for the spoken word that opens the floodgates. The title before us, "Someone Will You Send 100 in Millions 5 Minutes Lift," is not mere chance arrangement of phrases, but a code of spirit, a vibration, a message hidden within paradox. It speaks of instantaneous increase, sudden elevation, and the swift descent of abundance when thought and word align with infinite intelligence. When we hear of millions appearing in minutes, the rational mind protests, the cautious mind denies, the fearful mind shrinks. Yet the spiritual law is not bound by time, by arithmetic, or by the heavy reasonings of the intellect. Spirit works in sudden ways, with precision, with swiftness, with what appears miraculous to the senses but is natural to the unseen laws. The very idea of 110 millions descending like a lift in 5 minutes is not a promise of figures alone, but a symbol of divine acceleration, proof that what we call delay is but a shadow of our own doubt. To be lifted is to be carried upward, out of the valley of struggle and into the high places of realization. Many live in the basement of thought, where lack, fear, and limitation dwell. Yet there is always an elevator at hand, always the invisible lift waiting to carry us upward at the press of a button. That button is the spoken word, the command of faith, the unwavering declaration that what belongs to me by divine right cannot be withheld. The moment one presses this inner button, the 5 minutes are set into motion. not measured in seconds, but in consciousness. The lift begins to rise, and the wealth of the universe begins its descent into form. We are told, ask, believing you have received, and it shall be given unto you. That is the 5-minute mystery, the swift transaction of heaven's economy. Someone, somewhere, is always the instrument through which divine supply flows. The someone in the title is not a person to be begged, but the willing channel of spirit, prepared and appointed by divine order. Spirit needs no coercion, no pleading, only the command of faith spoken with joy. At the appointed moment, the lift descends, the treasure is delivered, and the miracle is complete. The number 110 millions may appear vast, yet spirit makes no distinction between pennies and empires. To infinite mind, a seed and a fortune are equal, both created with the same effortless breath. What matters is not the sum, but the consciousness that calls it forth. 5 minutes is but the symbol of immediacy of the eternal now. All supply lies waiting in the invisible, and when the inner word is spoken, delay vanishes like mist at sunrise. This title, then, is a parable. It is the promise that supply is never far, never slow, never uncertain. It is already here, waiting for the recognition that says, I am lifted, I am supplied, I am aligned with the law of abundance. Divine supply is instantaneous, and the moment one truly grasps this truth, life begins to unfold in ways that the reasoning mind calls impossible. Yet the spiritual law recognizes as inevitable. The world is accustomed to the slow march of effort, to the weary climb of accumulation, to the grinding belief that all things must be earned through toil, anxiety, and time. But in the invisible realm of spirit, supply is never delayed. It does not travel, it does not wait in line, it does not arrive by chance. It is already present, whole, perfect, complete, and awaiting only recognition. The appearance of time is an illusion that human thought weaves to justify its doubts and its fears. The instant the word of faith is spoken, the instant belief replaces hesitation, the instant vision becomes clear, supply is released, and it descends like lightning, swift, exact, and unstoppable. The world operates by contracts, by procedures, by slow-moving wheels of transaction. The soul who knows the law of supply, however, knows that these outer appearances are merely shadows. They are not the cause, they are the effect. The true cause lies within thought, within the spoken word charged with faith. When the consciousness is aligned with divine truth, there is no waiting, no process, no journey. It happens in the eternal now. To spirit, there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no passage of hours. The divine knows only the immediate presence of good, the fullness of abundance, the overflowing cup that never ceases. Supply, therefore, does not come to us, it is revealed to us. The moment the veil of doubt lifts, the moment the fog of fear clears, the abundance already present is seen, felt and received. To the doubter this seems fanciful. They say, but I have waited years. I have prayed, I have begged, and still nothing comes. Yet begging is not commanding, and hoping is not knowing. Spirit answers not the wavering heart, but the words spoken with authority. The law of supply is exact. Just as water poured into a channel rushes forth the instant the way is opened, so too does divine abundance flow instantly when the channel of consciousness is cleared. It requires no accumulation, no delay, no preparation in the outer world. It flows at once because it was always present. A seed germinates not because the earth suddenly decides to create it, but because the life within was already encoded, waiting for its moment of expression. So too is supply encoded in every soul's divine design, waiting only for the instant when recognition unlocks its storehouse. Consider the symbol of light. The room is dark, heavy with shadows. One need not plead for the sun, one need not wait for the candle to crawl into existence. The simple act of pressing the switch, the act of releasing energy into the circuit, banishes darkness in an instant. So it is with supply. The darkness of lack is not reality, but an absence of recognition. The instant one presses the switch of faith, the instant the declaration is made, supply floods in, and the shadows dissolve. There is no waiting for the light to crawl across the room. It is there the very moment the command is given. When the soul grasps that divine supply is instantaneous, fear loses its power. There is no longer a trembling at the thought of tomorrow, no longer an anxious saving for some distant rescue, no longer a belief in the long delay of good. Instead, there is confidence in the eternal now. This confidence does not lead to carelessness, but to trust. It does not create passivity, but a boldness of spirit, a courage to declare, to act, to step forward without hesitation. One who knows supply is immediate does not stagger when appearances contradict, for appearances are only the smoke of disbelief. Behind the smoke stands the mountain of truth, solid, unmoving, ever present, waiting for the eyes of faith to perceive it. The mind of man is conditioned to believe in preparation, in effort, in the long climb. The spirit within knows only completion. When we align with spirit, we do not climb the mountain step by step, gasping and weary. We are lifted instantly to its summit. This lifting does not come by force or by striving, but by surrender to the law that already is. The law does not ask us to build supply, it asks us to accept it. It does not ask us to chase abundance. It asks us to recognize abundance as our rightful state. The moment recognition is pure, the manifestation appears, and it appears now. There are countless testimonies of sudden provision, of fortunes appearing overnight, of healings that occur in a breath, of transformations that seem impossible by human reason. These are not accidents, not exceptions, but glimpses of the law in action. What is called a miracle is merely the natural law of spirit breaking through the crust of human disbelief. And the miracle always happens in an instant. The waiting, the delay, the slow unfolding, all belong to the mind of man. Spirit knows nothing of them. The moment faith is absolute, the moment word is spoken with certainty, the miracle manifests at once. To live in the consciousness of instantaneous supply is to live free of strain. It is to awaken each day knowing that all that is needed is already at hand, whether it appears visible or not. It is to walk through the world with calm assurance, never grasping, never begging, never fearing, but resting in the certainty that whatever is required, be it wealth, opportunity, wisdom, or health, is released the very moment it is recognized. The very act of recognition, the very act of claiming, is the key that unlocks the invisible vault. And just as a key does not slowly push the door open, but turns at once and releases the lock, so too does faith release supply in a single movement. This is the divine rhythm, immediate, precise, unfailing. The rhythm is not measured by clocks but by consciousness. To those who linger in doubt, the manifestation seems slow. To those who command with faith, it is instant. Time collapses, distance dissolves, and what seemed far away is suddenly here. In this eternal now, there is no waiting for good. There is only the opening of eyes to see what has always been standing before us, radiant, abundant, overflowing, waiting for the word to give it form. The lift of consciousness is the secret doorway through which all abundance enters, and until one steps inside and presses the upward button of faith, life remains confined to the lower floors of struggle, limitation, and fear. Just as a great building has many levels, so does the human mind. On the basement level, thoughts are dark and heavy, filled with doubts, debts, worries, and the ceaseless repetition of lack. One who remains there sees only walls and shadows, unaware that above are wide windows, fresh air, and sunlit rooms. The only difference between the basement and the penthouse is consciousness, and the only vehicle of passage is the lift. That lift is the spoken word infused with belief. Every thought we think is a step into that elevator. Every word we speak is the pressing of a button that determines whether we ascend or remain where we are. Some keep pressing the button marked fear, and so the lift never moves. Others hesitate, pressing faith one moment and doubt the next, causing the journey to halt between floors. Yet the law is simple: the lift obeys the button pressed with conviction. When faith is absolute, when the word is spoken without hesitation, the lift moves, swift and unerring, carrying the soul upward into realms of greater supply and wider vision. The spoken word is the most powerful tool given to man, for it is the bridge between thought and manifestation. Thoughts may flicker, shift, and dissolve, but words carry the vibration into form. When one declares, "I am lifted into abundance," the universe responds, not in some distant future, but at once. The declaration creates movement, a shifting of energy, an alignment with higher levels of consciousness where supply is natural and effortless. Words of lack hold us to the basement, but words of faith rise like currents, carrying us to the higher floors where treasures await. Many ask why their prayers seem unanswered, why their affirmations bear no fruit, why they ride the lift yet never reach the top. The answer lies in divided consciousness. If one speaks words of faith but harbors secret fears, the lift is stalled between floors. If one affirms abundance in the morning but laments poverty at night, the journey is interrupted. The lift of consciousness requires consistency. It requires a steady pressing of the button, a refusal to look back at the basement, a calm assurance that upward movement is inevitable. The very act of staying in faith, even when appearances deny it, is what powers the ascent. Consider how swiftly an elevator rises once it is set in motion. It does not struggle, it does not climb hand over hand. It is carried by a power greater than itself. So it is with consciousness. We are not meant to struggle upward by effort alone, but to be lifted by the invisible law once we choose alignment. The lift does not ask the passenger to explain mechanics or to generate the force. It requires only trust. Step inside, press the button, and allow the power to do the work. The same is true of the spoken word. We are not asked to strain, to figure out how the supply will arrive, or to calculate the steps. We are asked only to speak in faith, to declare the truth, and to rest in the certainty that the law will fulfill itself. The basement of thought is familiar to many, yet it holds no real treasures. It is filled with complaints, comparisons, and the constant whisper of insufficiency. One who lives there may believe the higher floors are unreachable, or may imagine the lift is broken. Yet the lift is never broken. It waits patiently for the command. The moment the command is given, the doors close on the old view, and the ascent begins. What was unseen becomes visible, what was impossible becomes natural, and what seemed far away becomes immediate. The entire shift is not in the outer world, but in the inner level at which one dwells. This upward movement is not only about material supply, but about clarity, peace, and vision. On the lower floors, windows are small, and one sees only narrow streets. But on the higher levels, the view expands. Problems that seemed enormous are now tiny, for perspective has changed. The higher the lift carries the consciousness, the smaller difficulties appear, and the more obvious solutions become. Abundance is not only wealth of money, but wealth of perception, wealth of wisdom, wealth of courage. When lifted into higher consciousness, one sees opportunities where once there seemed only obstacles, and sees doors where once there appeared only walls. The power of the spoken word cannot be overemphasized. Words create images in the mind, and images become experiences in the world. To say, "I am rich," while feeling poor is to press two buttons at once, and the lift hesitates. To speak with joy, conviction, and repetition is to press the same button firmly until the law responds with precision. The universe does not ignore a consistent declaration. The energy of faith builds momentum, and the lift rises until the new floor is reached. The shift may seem sudden, but it is the natural effect of persistent alignment. One need not strain to lift consciousness. Strain is effort born of doubt. The lift works silently, invisibly, carrying the soul upward without struggle. Faith is not labor, it is surrender to law. When the word is spoken, when the button is pressed, the power flows without obstruction. The lift does not consult appearances, nor is it hindered by the weight of fear once the command is clear. It simply carries out the order. So too does spirit fulfill the word spoken in certainty. There is beauty in the metaphor of ascent, for it reveals that we are never stuck, never imprisoned on one level. At any moment, the lift is available. At any moment, we may choose to rise. Circumstances may press heavily on the basement floor, but they do not control the button of consciousness. Only the individual does. The instant one chooses differently, the instant one affirms a higher truth, the ascent begins. The lift cares nothing for the years spent in the basement, it responds only to the present command. Thus, the lift of consciousness is not fantasy but law. It operates with the same certainty as gravity or light. The spoken word is the key. Faith is the button, and the law of spirit is the power that raises us without delay. Every soul holds this power, though many forget it, and many misuse it by speaking words of fear. Yet the law is impartial. It will lift as quickly with, "I am abundant," as it will with, "I am poor," for it honors the button pressed. The choice, therefore, lies not in whether the lift exists, but in whether we dare to use it rightly, consistently, and with unwavering conviction. The symbol of the 110 millions is not to be taken as a mere number, nor as the promise of one specific sum, but as the emblem of limitless increase. The figure chosen by Spirit to reveal that abundance is without measure. Numbers in the language of Spirit are not cold arithmetic, but carriers of vibration. They whisper meanings. They point to truths hidden beneath the surface. The figure of 110 million is extravagant, beyond the ordinary grasp of human planning, and in that very extravagance lies the message. It is Spirit saying, "I do not deal in rations, I do not measure in small coins. My supply is vast, overflowing, inconceivable to the calculating mind." The human tendency is to pray for just enough, to seek a little more, to fear excess as though it were dangerous. But divine law knows no smallness, and when it gives in floods. To dwell on the symbol of the 110 millions is to train the mind away from limitation. It is to remind the consciousness that the universe does not count in dribbles, it counts in oceans. The number shocks the rational thought. And that shock is useful, for it shakes loose the habitual belief that one must creep forward in inches. Spirit reveals through such symbols that the increase available is immeasurable, that the soul must expand its vision to receive. If one asks only for bread, the answer comes as a banquet. If one asks only for pennies, the answer comes as millions. Not because the millions themselves are the goal, but because the supply is always greater than the demand when the demand is made in faith. The mind that focuses on money alone misses the essence. The millions are not paper, not figures in an account, but representations of overflowing good. They may manifest as wealth, but they may also appear as opportunities beyond price, as connections, as ideas, as health, as joy. The number is a symbol, a pointer, reminding us that divine increase is not bound by form. The 110 millions could arrive as a contract, as a gift, as land, as unexpected provision. Or it may arrive as a shift so complete that one's need for money itself is transformed. The symbol does not bind spirit. It declares spirit's nature. That nature is generosity, overflow, the endless river that pours forth because it cannot do otherwise. Why then is the symbol so specific, so great? Because specificity awakens belief. The vague prayer, the timid hope, drifts unanswered because it carries no conviction. But when one contemplates a vast figure, something within stretches, something awakens. The soul begins to ask, if such a thing is possible, what else may be possible? The symbol of millions is therefore not meant to bind the imagination, but to free it. It reminds us that nothing is too large, nothing too extravagant, for spirit. If the mind can conceive it, spirit can produce it. And often spirit produces more, for it delights in surpassing the boundaries of thought. To see 110 millions is to be reminded of the overflowing nature of life itself. A tree does not produce one leaf, but thousands. A flower does not drop one seed, but multitudes. A wave does not strike the shore once, but endlessly. All of creation testifies to abundance. And the number merely puts into human terms what nature displays in silence. The symbol says, look around you, notice the excess that surrounds you. Notice how the sun pours light without charge, how the earth pours fruit without measure, how the air pours breath without limit. If nature is extravagant in every detail, how could the divine source behind it all be anything less than infinite? Many fear large numbers. They shrink back, thinking them too vast, too dangerous, too beyond their deserving. Yet this shrinking is the very barrier to receiving. Spirit withholds nothing, it is the narrow vessel of consciousness that limits the inflow. When one dares to contemplate millions with calm acceptance, the vessel enlarges. The mind begins to expect greater things, the heart begins to open wider, and the channels of life respond. The number is not greed, it is growth. It stretches the imagination to the scale of Spirit's generosity. It is also a reminder that to Spirit, a penny and a million are the same. Both are created with equal ease, both are delivered without effort. The difficulty lies not in the giving but in the believing. To infinite intelligence, there is no difference in supplying one seed or one forest, one coin or one fortune. The law does not struggle with size, only with doubt. When the consciousness says, "It is as easy for me to receive a fortune as to receive a coin," then the channels are widened, and the greater supply flows freely. The symbol of millions is a training ground for faith, for it compels the soul to let go of the belief in difficulty. There is also rhythm in the figure itself. 110 suggests strength, foundation, and multiplication. It carries the vibration of wholeness and increase. The millions that follow amplify this rhythm, making it vast, making it overflowing. Spirit often speaks in symbols that are not fully understood by the intellect, but felt by the heart. The number therefore may stir something beyond reasoning, a sense of greatness, a call to expansion. That stirring is the true gift, for it awakens the soul to claim more of what has always been waiting. To meditate on the 110 millions is to see beyond figures and into principle. It is to know that divine law is inexhaustible, that the treasures of Spirit cannot be counted. The number is a pointer to the limitless reservoir. It is as though Spirit says, "Even if you imagine this vast sum, I could give it without effort, and still there would be more. Still the storehouse would remain full, still the river would flow." The symbol teaches us that we need never fear depletion. No matter how great the vision, Spirit remains greater still. No matter how large the dream, the source remains infinite. When the consciousness embraces this symbol, fear of insufficiency dissolves. One ceases to ask, "Will there be enough?" and instead declares, "There is more than enough." That declaration, spoken in faith, is what transforms experience. The soul begins to expect excess, to welcome overflow, to prepare for more than it asked. And in that preparation the law responds, for it always matches belief. The 110 millions is therefore less about the sum itself and more about the consciousness it awakens. The consciousness of boundless supply. The mind that dwells in limitation cannot grasp this at once, but repetition softens resistance. To hold the image, to speak the affirmation, to imagine the vastness without fear, is to build the inner capacity to receive. Slowly the fear of greatness dissolves, and the natural state of abundance is restored. Then the figure no longer shocks, but feels normal, feels right, feels inevitable. That is when the symbol has fulfilled its purpose. It has trained the consciousness to rise above smallness, to align with the measureless generosity of Spirit, to see beyond the coin into the infinite river that never ceases to pour forth. The someone in the message is not a stranger to be chased, not a benefactor to be begged, not a figure of chance, but the chosen channel through which Spirit moves its treasures. Spirit always works through instruments, through people, through circumstances, yet those instruments are never the source. The source is always the invisible law of supply, and the channels are countless. To fix the gaze on one person and demand they deliver is to mistake the channel for the fountain. The fountain of abundance is eternal, inexhaustible, and it chooses its channels with perfect precision. The someone may be near or far, known or unknown, expected or unexpected. The law does not require the receiver to identify the channel. The law requires only that the receiver be open, receptive, and ready to accept supply from wherever Spirit appoints it to flow. In every story of sudden provision, there is always a someone. A letter arrives, a call is made, a friend remembers, a stranger appears, a door opens. Yet behind each of these someones is the invisible orchestration of Spirit. The person may believe it was their choice, their decision, their generosity. But in truth they were the vessel through which divine order expressed itself. To look only at the vessel is to forget the ocean that fills it. The wise soul recognizes the someone as a symbol, a reminder that spirit never works in isolation, but always through appointed means. This truth removes fear and striving. Many worry, who will help me? Who will provide? Who will support? Such questions bind the mind to a narrow search, looking only in familiar directions. But the law has no such limits. The someone may be one never considered, may be an avenue never imagined, may be an opportunity so far beyond the expected that it feels miraculous. When one trusts the law, there is no need to select the channel, no need to identify the person. The focus is not on who, but on the certainty that spirit is moving, that the right someone is already appointed, already on the way, already carrying out their part in divine timing. The symbol of someone is also a lesson in release. It teaches that the receiver must let go of control, must surrender the tendency to dictate the manner of fulfillment. Too often, prayers are limited by rigid expectations. The mind insists the provision must come from this person, through this method, in this sequence. But spirit does not work by human rules. Spirit works by harmony, by the perfect weaving of countless threads into one tapestry. To trust the someone is to allow the channel to be chosen by wisdom greater than our own. It is to say, I am open to receive, and I care not through whom it comes, for I know the source is eternal and unfailing. Someone is not necessarily a single person. It may be many acting in harmony, it may be an organization, it may be an event. Spirit arranges these channels with flawless timing. The lift descends, the door opens, and suddenly the right person appears, the right word is spoken, the right connection is made. Human reasoning might call it coincidence, but the awakened soul sees it as divine order unfolding. Every someone who enters the path at the appointed moment is an answer to faith, a confirmation that the law never fails. There is also a deeper teaching hidden in the symbol of someone. At times, the appointed someone is not another, but the self. The divine within rises as the channel, the source of wisdom, the spark of inspiration, the sudden idea that transforms everything. Many wait for external figures, forgetting that spirit often uses the very individual who prays as the vessel of fulfillment. The someone may be your own higher self, speaking through intuition, guiding to an action, revealing a solution. Thus the law works both inwardly and outwardly, through others and through the self, always weaving them together in harmony. When the consciousness understands this truth, there is no need for desperation. Desperation arises when one believes there are few channels, when one clings to a single person or source. But faith expands vision, reminding the soul that channels are infinite. There are as many someones as there are stars, as many possibilities as there are grains of sand. If one door closes, another opens, for spirit is never limited. The supply is eternal, and it will find its path no matter how many obstacles appear. The someone cannot miss their appointment, for divine order is exact. The teaching also reveals the importance of readiness. Spirit may appoint the channel, but the receiver must be prepared to accept. Too often, the someone appears, but fear or pride rejects the gift. The channel is dismissed because it does not match the expected form. The lesson is clear. Remain open, remain humble, remain willing to receive in whatever way spirit chooses. The someone may come disguised, may come in ways that seem small or strange, yet within that form lies the appointed blessing. Those who are receptive recognize it and receive fully. Those who cling to pride or narrow vision let it pass by. The idea of someone also releases us from isolation. It reminds us that we are part of a vast web of connection, that no good comes in isolation but always in relationship. The law moves through people, through circumstances, through interactions. Even the wealth that appears in a solitary account is connected to countless others. The workers, the thinkers, the traders, the givers. The someone is a thread in the larger fabric of divine harmony. To honor that thread is to honor spirit itself. Faith in the someone also dissolves resentment. Often, the mind grows bitter. expecting one particular person to deliver, and when they do not, anger arises. But when we understand that no single person is the source, resentment vanishes. That one may not have been the appointed channel. The true someone is already chosen, already on the way. Thus there is no need to cling, no need to demand, no need to force. Release others from the role of provider and see them only as fellow travelers. Trust Spirit to appoint the right vessel at the right moment, and peace returns. The symbol is liberating. It frees us from dependence on personalities and places dependence where it belongs, on the eternal law. The someone is always provided. The channel always appears. The lift always arrives at the appointed floor. What is required of us is not control but readiness, not fear but trust, not clinging but release. In this trust, the heart rests secure, knowing that the right someone is already chosen, and the flow of supply is already in motion. The eternal 5 minutes is not a measure of time as clocks would count it, not a literal span of minutes ticking by, but a symbol of immediacy, the revelation that all manifestation is born in the now. To Spirit there is no past and no future. There is only the eternal present, the timeless moment where every possibility already exists in completeness. The human mind measures by hours, by days, by years, and in so doing binds itself to delay. It says, it will take time, it will require waiting, it will arrive later. Yet Spirit does not dwell in later. Spirit dwells in now. The 5 minutes is a parable. A figure chosen to shock the mind into seeing that what is sought need not be distant, that what is asked for can descend at once, that the so-called waiting is only the shadow cast by disbelief. When one speaks the word of faith, it is not a seed buried to wait out seasons, it is a command that draws the unseen into form. The law of Spirit responds instantly. The delay appears only in consciousness, in the resistance of the mind, in the veil of doubt. But the instant faith is pure, the instant word is spoken with authority, manifestation is immediate. This is the eternal 5 minutes, the moment between recognition and reception, which in truth is no time at all. It is the sudden shift, the lift that rises, the curtain that parts, the treasure that is revealed. To the human perspective it may seem rapid, as though only 5 minutes have passed, yet to Spirit it is timeless, for Spirit acts only in the now. The eternal 5 minutes dissolves fear of waiting. Many postpone their joy, saying, when I have more, I will be happy. When circumstances change, I will be free. They place abundance always in the future, always out of reach. Yet the law teaches otherwise. Joy is now, freedom is now. Abundance is now. The moment one claims it, the moment one declares it, the moment one shifts consciousness, it is present. The 5 minutes symbolizes the swiftness of this shift, but the deeper truth is that there is no interval at all. What is called delay is only the time taken for the mind to accept. Once accepted, supply is already here. Consider the image of a veil drawn across a window. The sun shines outside, full and radiant, yet the room remains dim. One may sit in the shadows believing the light has not come, believing it will take time to arrive. But the light was never absent. It waits only for the veil to be drawn aside. That act of drawing aside is instantaneous. The moment it is done, the light floods in. That is the eternal 5 minutes. It is not the coming of the sun but the recognition of what already is. The light was there, the supply was there. The abundance was there, waiting only for consciousness to remove the barrier. The eternal 5 minutes also reveals that divine supply is not earned by the passage of time. Effort, toil, delay, these belong to the human belief that value must be measured by struggle. Spirit makes no such bargain. Spirit gives freely, fully, instantly. To believe that abundance requires long labor is to bind oneself to the basement of thought. To understand that it requires only recognition is to enter the lift. The 5 minutes is a reminder that what seems long and heavy can be light and swift. A fortune can arrive in a moment, a healing can occur in a breath, a transformation can unfold in the twinkling of an eye. This truth does not deny the appearance of process in the outer world. The harvest does appear to grow across seasons, the building does appear to rise over months, The journey does appear to unfold across miles. Yet beneath those appearances, the supply is already complete. The seed contains the full harvest, the blueprint contains the full building, the path contains the full destination. The eternal 5 minutes reveals that what we call process is merely the unfolding of what already exists. Faith collapses the sense of delay, bringing the end into the present. One who believes sees the harvest while planting, lives in the building while sketching, rejoices at the destination while still walking. The eternal 5 minutes is also a discipline of thought. It demands that one stop postponing. It asks, why wait to feel abundant? Why wait to believe in wealth? Why wait to affirm supply? The soul is invited to declare now, to rejoice now, to live as though the manifestation were already present. This is not pretense, for Spirit has already given. It is recognition. To live in the eternal 5 minutes is to speak and act as though the desired good is already here, because in truth it is. That consciousness draws it swiftly into visible form. Many live in the illusion of tomorrow. They say, tomorrow I will prosper. Tomorrow I will succeed. Tomorrow I will rest. Yet tomorrow never arrives, for it is always postponed. The eternal 5 minutes breaks this illusion. It declares, now is the appointed time. Now is the moment of supply. Now is the day of abundance. To embrace this truth is to step into alignment with Spirit, to collapse the distance between desire and fulfillment, to see that they are one and the same. The symbol of 5 minutes is gentle, for it eases the mind into acceptance. The human mind may resist the idea of absolute immediacy, but it can grasp the nearness of 5 minutes. It can accept that a change may come suddenly, swiftly, without long delay. The figure acts as a bridge between the infinite now of Spirit and the linear thinking of man. It says, if you cannot yet believe in instant, believe in soon. If you cannot yet accept now, accept within minutes. And in that acceptance, the miracle manifests often faster than imagined. The eternal 5 minutes is also the moment of readiness. Spirit does not measure time but readiness of consciousness. When the inner word is clear, when faith is strong, when doubt has dissolved, the supply manifests immediately. The 5 minutes symbolizes that moment of readiness, the inner alignment that tips the balance and brings forth the visible. One may wait years in doubt, but the shift comes in a flash, and the years vanish as though they never were. The blessing descends in the appointed moment, and it is always the now. This teaching frees the soul from anxiety about how long things will take. It no longer matters whether the outer world says it will take months or years. Spirit requires no such time. The supply exists already in completeness, and the 5 minutes symbolizes how swiftly it can appear once consciousness is aligned. The lift does not crawl slowly up the shaft. It moves swiftly once the button is pressed. So too does abundance manifest swiftly once the command is given in faith. The eternal 5 minutes, therefore, is not about minutes at all but about consciousness. It is the space between asking and receiving, which in truth is no space at all. It is the reminder that supply is immediate, that abundance is already present. That time itself is but a veil the mind weaves. The moment one lives in the eternal now, the 5 minutes collapses into an instant, and the desired good is revealed in all its fullness. The spoken word carries vibration, and vibration shapes destiny. What is declared with faith takes root in the unseen and blossoms in the seen. The power of the tongue is the power of creation. When a number is spoken with conviction, that number is magnetized, clothed with substance, and called into manifestation. There is nothing too great, no sum too high, for the infinite supply. The mind that clings to limitation shuts the door, while the voice that speaks abundance opens it wide. Say this 900 million. Do not reason it away, do not diminish it, do not doubt it. Numbers are symbols, and symbols are messengers of the divine order. 900 million is already complete in the invisible. The river of supply does not ask whether you are worthy, it flows where it is invited. By naming it, you invite it. By holding silence after, you seal it. When one says 900 million with full belief, the soul affirms that all channels are open. The unseen law moves to align circumstances, people, and opportunities. The outer world may appear unmoved at first, yet the seed is sown. A farmer does not dig up the ground after planting to check if the seed lives, he knows it lives. In the same way, you speak, you believe, and you rest in quiet. Many speak lack and wonder why lack grows. Many chase and grasp and wonder why the harvest never comes. The secret is in the command and the calm. The command, spoken once with power, sets the decree. The calm, your silence, keeps the decree intact. To repeat with worry or strain is to plant and uproot, plant and uproot. But to speak and be still is to water with faith. The law of prosperity is impartial. It is not swayed by pleading, nor moved by despair. It is moved by certainty. 900 million is as easy as 9. The infinite knows no scale, no difficulty, no degree. The mind of man invents small and large, but spirit knows only supply. What you dare to claim, you dare to live. Speak the number, and it is yours in the unseen. Guard your tongue after, for idle contradiction delays the arrival. Do not ignore the call of 900 million. It has already answered you. Every time you say it, you write it on the walls of the subconscious. Every time you hold silence after, you engrave it deeper. Soon the outer must obey the inner. The number will take form, for the spoken word never returns void. Say this 900 million. Be still. Let it be. The spoken word creates reality. For words are not mere sounds drifting into the air, but carriers of energy, carriers of vibration, carriers of intention that mold the unseen substance of life into form. Every syllable spoken with belief has weight, and that weight presses upon the invisible field of potential until it shapes itself into visible expression. The tongue is a creative tool, sharper than the chisel of a sculptor, more potent than the brush of a painter, for it moves not only matter but spirit, not only images but destiny. To speak is to declare, and to declare is to set law in motion. There are no idle words when they are spoken with conviction. For even the simplest statement gathers momentum, like a seed that knows no rest until it breaks forth from the soil. The spoken word creates reality because sound is vibration, and vibration is movement, and movement shapes substance. The entire universe is formed by vibration, from the smallest particle to the grandest star. When one speaks, one vibrates with the universe itself, aligning with the eternal rhythm that governs all creation. To speak lack is to call forth lack, to speak abundance is to call forth abundance. To speak health is to call forth health, and to speak defeat is to summon defeat. The law does not discriminate, it does not choose for you. It only reflects what you choose to declare. Every word uttered carries the power of agreement, and agreement is the key to manifestation. When you speak a word, you are agreeing with its essence, whether for good or for ill. Say, I am poor, and you have agreed with poverty, invited it to dwell with you, and given it shelter. Say, I am prosperous, and you have agreed with abundance, welcomed it into your house, and opened the doors of supply. The spoken word is a covenant, a contract written in sound between the inner and the outer. It is the signing of a decree, sealed not with ink but with breath, and breath is life itself. The spoken word creates reality because the subconscious mind is always listening, always recording, always translating words into instructions. The subconscious does not argue, it does not reason, it does not reject, it accepts and acts. Speak often of your fears, and the subconscious will begin to weave them into experience. Speak often of your desires, and the subconscious will bend circumstances toward their fulfillment. It is like soil, neutral and impartial, yielding in kind to the seed that is planted. To speak a word is to drop a seed into the fertile ground of the unseen. To repeat a word with faith is to water it. To guard your speech is to protect it from weeds. Every spoken word sends forth a current of energy that draws to itself its likeness. Declare harmony, and harmony is attracted. Declare confusion, and confusion answers. Like attracts, like in the realm of thought and speech. It is not enough to think silently and hope. The spoken word carries an extra force, for sound has wings. Words spoken aloud are vibrations released into the atmosphere. vibrations that never cease but circle endlessly, drawing to themselves companions of the same tone. To say, I am strong, is to vibrate with strength. To say, I am weak, is to vibrate with weakness, and each vibration gathers power until it manifests outwardly. The spoken word creates reality because it builds faith. When you hear yourself declare a truth, it enters more deeply than when you merely think it. Thought may waver, but speech anchors thought. To affirm aloud is to remind the conscious mind, to command the subconscious, and to align with the universal law all at once. The more you hear your own voice speak prosperity, health, love, or joy, the more natural it feels, until the old words of doubt lose their grip. Faith is built by repetition, and repetition spoken aloud is faith in action. The spoken word creates reality because silence alone is not enough. Many people hold their desires quietly in the mind, yet their spoken words cancel them out. They may visualize wealth, yet complain of bills aloud. They may dream of success, yet declare failure to friends. They may picture harmony, yet speak quarrels into being. The creative power is broken when the tongue betrays the heart. To align speech with desire is to bring the mind into unity. Unity of thought, word, and belief is irresistible. It must manifest, for it is whole. The spoken word is a bridge between the invisible and the visible, between the inner and the outer. To speak is to bring the unseen into the seen. Just as the architect must voice his vision before it can be drawn, and the composer must hum the melody before it can be written, so must the soul speak its truth before it can be embodied. Speech gives shape to thought, and thought clothed in speech becomes action. Action becomes habit, habit becomes character, character becomes destiny. It all begins with the word. The spoken word creates reality because it carries authority. Every person holds within them a measure of creative authority, granted by the universal law, and that authority is exercised by what is spoken. Words of command carry the greatest power. Say, "This is mine by divine right," and you have called upon your authority. Say, "I cannot," and you have surrendered your authority. The tongue is either a servant or a master, either building the house of your desire or tearing it down. To know this is to become watchful, careful, and deliberate in every utterance. The spoken word creates reality not only for the self but for others. Words spoken to another enter their subconscious, planting seeds in their soil. To speak encouragement is to lift them. To speak discouragement is to wound them. The words spoken over children shape their lives. The words spoken over friends shape their confidence. The words spoken over enemies shape the field of conflict. Speech is not a solitary act, it is a communal force, weaving the fabric of collective reality. One word of blessing may change a life, one word of curse may break it. The spoken word creates reality because it aligns with divine law. The law has decreed that, as a man thinketh, so is he. And the spoken word is thought made audible. To speak is to double the power of thought, to give it form and substance. The universe was spoken into being, and creation still follows that pattern. Every utterance echoes that primal command, "Let there be," and so there is. To speak lack is to say, "Let there be lack." To speak abundance is to say, "Let there be abundance." The universe always answers, for it cannot deny its own law. Numbers are symbols of divine order, carrying within them the rhythm, harmony, and structure of the universe. They are not cold figures written on a page, but living signs that mirror the hidden laws of creation. Each number vibrates with meaning. Each sequence reflects a pattern. Each sum reveals an order that the human mind may not see at first glance, but that the soul recognizes as eternal truth. Numbers are the language of the unseen, the code by which the infinite expresses itself in the finite, the silent script behind every form, every cycle, every unfolding event. Numbers are woven into the very fabric of existence. The planets move in measured paths. The tides rise and fall in precise intervals. The seasons return in faithful succession. The heartbeat pulses in countable rhythm. The breath comes and goes in measurable cycles. Nothing in the universe escapes number, for number is order, and order is law. Without number, there would be chaos. With number, there is harmony. To understand numbers is to glimpse the blueprint of creation, to see how the invisible intelligence arranges substance into beauty, proportion, and balance. When one sees numbers not merely as quantities but as qualities, new light dawns. A single digit may carry within it a principle, a truth, an archetype that governs experience. The number 1 is unity, beginnings, individuality, the spark of creation itself. The number 2 is duality, reflection, partnership, the law of polarity. The number 3 is expression, growth, manifestation, the blending of opposites into a new creation. The number 4 is foundation, order, stability, the structure upon which life rests. The number 5 is change, freedom, movement, the restless call of expansion. The number 6 is balance, responsibility, harmony between spirit and matter. The number 7 is mystery, intuition, divine completion beyond the material. The number 8 is power, infinity turned upright, the flow of giving and receiving. The number 9 is fulfillment, the end of a cycle, wisdom gained through experience. These qualities are not inventions of the mind, but revelations of the soul, for every number is charged with spiritual energy. Numbers are symbols of divine order because they recur with uncanny consistency in nature and in human affairs. The spiral of a shell, the petals of a flower, the branching of a tree, the orbit of planets, the proportions of the human body, all bear the mark of mathematical harmony. These patterns are not accidents, but signatures of a cosmic intelligence that arranges all things according to measure. Sacred geometry reveals how numbers form the basis of design, how triangles, circles, and squares express universal truths through proportion and relationship. To meditate on these forms is to commune with the eternal order behind appearances. Numbers are also symbols, because they speak to the subconscious mind in ways words cannot. A number can bypass reason and speak directly to the inner knowing. When a figure such as 900 million is spoken, it does not only represent wealth, but evokes magnitude, fullness, abundance beyond comprehension. It impresses the subconscious not only with value but with vibration. The subconscious responds not to logic but to symbol. And numbers are among the most potent symbols of all. To declare a number is to declare an alignment with the quality that number carries. When one calls 900 million, one is not merely asking for currency, but invoking the vibration of immense abundance, limitless supply, and the divine order that makes such magnitude possible. Numbers reveal timing and cycles, showing that nothing in life happens without rhythm. Just as the moon waxes and wanes in set intervals, so do human affairs rise and fall in measured sequences. The ancients studied numbers not only as mathematics but as prophecy, reading in them the turning of ages, the unfolding of destiny. The cycles of 7, the patterns of 12, the mastery of 3. All these reveal that life unfolds in predictable steps, each stage building upon the last. Numbers are the markers of these steps, the signs that guide the journey. Numbers are symbols of divine order because they unite the material with the spiritual. On one side, they are practical, governing trade, measure, architecture, music, and all arts of human hands. On the other side, they are mystical, carrying hidden meanings that whisper of truths beyond the senses. To the unseeing, numbers are only tools; to the awakened, they are doorways. One may count coins or one may perceive the flow of infinite supply through the same digits. One may measure distance or one may see the harmony of cosmic design in the same equation. The same number can feed the mind or feed the soul, depending on how it is viewed. Numbers are eternal, unchanging, incorruptible. Empires rise and fall, languages evolve and vanish. But the essence of number remains the same. 2 and 2 are 4 in every age, in every land, under every sky. This permanence is a reminder that behind the shifting illusions of the world lies a stable order, a truth that does not change with opinion or circumstance. Numbers are a doorway into that permanence, showing that the divine order is not subject to whim, but stands forever as the foundation of existence. Numbers are also commands when spoken with intention. Just as words carry vibration, so do numbers carry power. To speak a number is to call forth its quality, to align oneself with its vibration, to declare that one belongs to its order. This is why repetition of numbers in affirmation is so potent, for each time the number is spoken, it strikes a chord in the unseen and draws its likeness closer. 900 million repeated with faith is not merely a statement of desire, but a call to the divine order that holds abundance in its keeping. Numbers are symbols of divine order because they dissolve fear of chance. When one sees life as random, one is tossed about by uncertainty. But when one sees the pattern in numbers, faith grows. The recognition that there is measure, sequence, proportion, and harmony in all things brings peace. Even apparent chaos has its hidden count, its concealed design. Numbers reassure the soul that nothing is wasted. Nothing is without purpose, nothing escapes order. What appears as disorder is often only an unseen pattern still unfolding, and in time the number reveals itself. Speak once with power, then remain silent, for the act of creation requires both command and rest, both utterance and stillness. The universe was not built by endless repetition of the same decree, but by a word spoken and allowed to unfold. To speak with power is to send forth a decree charged with faith, conviction, and certainty. To remain silent afterward is to show trust in the law that governs manifestation. The combination of a strong command and a quiet spirit is the secret of true demonstration. The word sets the cause in motion, and the silence guards it until its fruit appears. Speak once with power, for a weak or uncertain word lacks the energy to impress itself upon the unseen. Words spoken without faith are like seeds scattered on stone, they cannot take root. But a word spoken with power penetrates deep into the subconscious, strikes the chord of divine law, and calls forth the likeness of itself. Power comes not from volume or force of sound but from conviction, from the inner knowing that what is spoken is already so in the invisible. To say a thing with assurance, to speak as one who knows, is to release a vibration that the universe must answer. The spoken decree should be sharp and definite, without wavering or hesitation. When one says, "This is mine by divine right," the declaration should carry the authority of one who believes without question. A single utterance charged with faith is more creative than 1,000 repetitions spoken in fear or doubt. Just as a single spark can ignite a forest, so can a single word of power set in motion the forces of manifestation. The law responds not to quantity of speech, but to quality of conviction. Speak once, speak clearly, speak boldly, and the work is done. Then remain silent. The silence after the decree is as important as the decree itself. Silence is not emptiness but trust, not passivity but confidence. To remain silent is to rest in the certainty that the word has been heard and answered, that the law has received its instruction and is carrying it out. The farmer who plants a seed does not dig it up the next day to see if it has sprouted. He leaves it in the ground, knowing that the soil and the season will do their work. So it is with the spoken word once it is planted. Silence must follow, for silence is the soil of fulfillment. To speak again with doubt is to uproot the seed, to disturb its growth, to interrupt its unfolding. Many people fail in their manifestations because they do not remain silent after speaking. They speak a decree of abundance but then chatter endlessly of lack. They affirm health but then rehearse symptoms aloud. They declare love but then complain of loneliness. In doing so, they cancel their first word, scattering the energy that should have been concentrated on creation. The power of the decree lies in its preservation, and preservation comes through silence. Silence is also protection. When a word of power has been spoken, it must be shielded from the contradictions of others. To speak of your decree before those who do not believe is to invite their doubt into your soil. Their words of disbelief may weaken your own, not because their will is stronger, but because you allowed their vibration into your field. Silence keeps the decree pure, untouched by the opinions of the world. Speak once with power, then keep the secret within, letting the law bring forth its fruit in its own time. The combination of power and silence reflects the dual nature of creation, the masculine force that sends forth the word and the feminine receptivity that nurtures it. The word without silence is incomplete, for it lacks the womb of stillness in which to gestate. Silence without the word is barren, for it has nothing to bring forth. Together they create balance, the force that commands and the quiet that allows, the seed and the soil, the spark and the space into which it expands. To speak once with power is to align yourself with divine authority. You are not begging, pleading, or hoping, you are declaring. A declaration does not need to be repeated endlessly, for it is spoken as law. When a king issues a decree, he does not repeat it day after day. He speaks it once, and the decree is carried out. To speak with power is to assume the same authority, knowing that your word is law in the realm of the unseen. To remain silent afterward is to show the dignity of one who knows his decree will not return void. The silence that follows is not passive waiting but active expectation. In silence you hold the picture of fulfillment. You nurture the feeling of completion. You align yourself inwardly with the outcome. You do not chatter about delays or wonder aloud when it will arrive. You rest in the assurance that the law is precise, that timing is perfect, that nothing can hinder the word once spoken. In this silence you create a magnet of stillness that draws the manifestation into your experience. To speak once with power, then remain silent, is also an act of discipline. The tongue is quick to betray the heart when it is not trained. The habit of idle speech, of complaining, of repeating doubts and fears, must be broken if the decree is to stand. Discipline yourself to speak little, to speak only words of power. To keep silence when tempted to contradict your own good. Every idle word weakens the structure you are building, but silence strengthens it. The disciplined tongue becomes the servant of the creative mind, and the creative mind becomes the channel of divine law. Powerful speech followed by silence also reflects the rhythm of the universe itself. There is day and there is night, there is activity and there is rest, there is expression and there is withdrawal. The word is the day, the silence is the night. The word is the activity, the silence is the rest. The word sends forth, the silence gathers in. To follow this rhythm is to work with the flow of creation, rather than against it. Those who only speak and never rest exhaust their energy. Those who only remain silent and never speak lack direction. Balance is the secret, and balance is found in the union of power and silence. When you speak once with power, you have done your part. When you remain silent, you allow the infinite to do its part. Creation is always a partnership between the human and the divine, between the conscious word and the unseen law. Your responsibility is to issue the decree with conviction. The law's responsibility is to bring it to pass. To interfere with endless words of doubt is to step into the law's domain where you do not belong. Speak and release. Declare and let go. Trust the process, for the process never fails when the decree is true and the silence is kept. The law of prosperity responds to certainty, not doubt. For prosperity is not a matter of chance, but of alignment with a principle that is eternal and unfailing. This law does not bend to hesitation, nor does it waver at uncertainty. It listens only to the clear, unwavering note of conviction. Certainty is the magnetic force that draws abundance, while doubt scatters the energy and dissolves the form. When one is certain, the way opens. When one is doubtful, the door closes. The law does not choose between the two, it simply mirrors the vibration given to it, and certainty is the vibration of fulfillment. Prosperity is always present, always flowing, always seeking channels through which to express itself. It is not created by man, nor is it dependent upon circumstance. It is part of the infinite supply that fills the universe, the inexhaustible storehouse of divine abundance. Yet this storehouse opens only to the key of certainty. A mind certain of supply draws supply. A heart certain of increase attracts increase. A voice certain of wealth calls wealth into form. Doubt, on the other hand, is a denial of the law, a shutting of the gate, a refusal of the gift. To doubt is to say, it is not mine. To be certain is to say, it is mine now. The law answers accordingly. Certainty is not mere hope, nor is it vague wishing. It is the deep inner knowing that the good desired already exists, and is already yours by right. It is the calm assurance that what is spoken will manifest, that what is claimed will appear, that what is decreed will not return void. Certainty is steady, immovable, unshaken by appearances. Circumstances may contradict, people may deny, conditions may suggest otherwise, but certainty does not waver. It knows that appearances are shadows, while the law is substance. It holds fast until the unseen becomes the seen. Doubt, by contrast, is the great destroyer of manifestation. Doubt interrupts the current, weakens the decree, and scatters the vibration into confusion. One may speak words of prosperity, but if doubt follows, the words are emptied of their power. To affirm, "I am prosperous," while secretly thinking, "But what if I fail?" is to cancel the decree. The law does not hear the surface words alone. It hears the tone of the heart. If certainty is lacking, the law has no clear command to fulfill. It reflects the mixture it receives, and so the result is mixed, incomplete, or absent altogether. The law of prosperity responds to certainty, because certainty is faith in action. Faith is not blind belief, but the assurance that the unseen is real and the invisible is substance. Faith speaks as though it already has, acts as though it already is, lives as though it already owns. Certainty carries the same quality. It does not plead with the law but commands with authority. It does not wait in fear but rests in assurance. It is the unwavering stance of one who knows their inheritance and will not be moved. This stance draws all conditions into alignment, for the law always conforms to the strongest vibration. To cultivate certainty, one must train both speech and thought. Every idle word of lack weakens certainty, every fearful thought dilutes it, every contradictory action undermines it. To strengthen certainty is to guard the tongue, discipline the mind, and walk in alignment with the decree already spoken. It is to speak abundance, to think abundance, to act abundance, until abundance becomes the natural state of consciousness. The law responds not to temporary flashes of belief but to consistent conviction. Certainty must be sustained, for it is sustained certainty that calls forth lasting prosperity. Certainty is magnetic because it carries a tone of finality. When one is certain, others feel it. Circumstances bend to it. Opportunities are drawn to it. Doors open because certainty does not waver at the threshold. A doubtful person hesitates and the door remains closed. A certain person walks as though the door is already open, and by that confidence, it opens. The vibration of certainty is irresistible. It draws people, resources, ideas, and timing into alignment, not by force but by law. The law of prosperity responds to certainty because certainty is unity of mind, word, and action. Doubt is division, a house divided against itself, torn between yes and no, wanting and fearing, affirming and denying. A divided house cannot stand. But certainty is unity. The mind agreeing with the word agreeing with the action agreeing with the belief. This unity produces harmony, and harmony is the signature of prosperity. The law recognizes unity and rushes to fulfill it. Certainty is also silence after the decree, the refusal to speak against what has been declared. To remain silent when tempted to contradict is a mark of certainty. To keep still when appearances challenge is proof of certainty. The certain soul does not need to argue, defend, or justify, it simply knows. That knowing is enough, and the law answers to it. Doubt requires constant reassurance, endless repetition, and noisy effort, but certainty rests in quiet power. The law responds to the quiet as surely as it does to the loud, for it is the tone, not the volume, that matters. The law of prosperity responds to certainty because certainty is alignment with divine order. The universe itself is certain, the sun rises. The stars hold their courses, the seasons turn in rhythm, the tides follow their appointed times. There is no hesitation in the cosmic design, no wavering in the universal pattern. To be certain is to harmonize with this order, to align with the steadiness of creation. To doubt is to separate from it, to stand outside the rhythm, to create discord within oneself. The law answers in kind. Harmony produces prosperity. Discord produces lack. Certainty is a habit that grows stronger with practice. One may begin with small declarations and witness their fulfillment, building confidence in the law. Each success strengthens certainty until it becomes unshakable. Doubt is also a habit. reinforced by repeated failures and disappointments. To break the habit of doubt, one must replace it with certainty, consciously choosing faith over fear, clarity over confusion, command over hesitation. Each time certainty is chosen, the vibration grows stronger, the channel wider, the flow greater. The law of prosperity responds to certainty, not doubt, because certainty is the expression of divine inheritance. To claim prosperity with certainty is to acknowledge your rightful place as a child of infinite supply. To doubt is to deny that inheritance, to act as though you are cut off from the source. The law does not cut anyone off, it is the individual who blocks the flow through doubt. Certainty removes the block, opens the channel, and allows the river of supply to flow freely. Doubt dams the river, and the flow is stopped. The law answers both, for it has no choice but to reflect the vibration it receives. Guard the tongue to protect the decree. For once a word of power has been spoken, it must be preserved, shielded, and kept from corruption. The tongue is the gateway of creation, and just as it can bless, it can also undo. A single idle word can weaken the vibration that has been set in motion. Just as a single careless step can disturb a delicate structure. The decree, once spoken with conviction, carries force. But that force can be dissipated if the tongue is not disciplined. To guard the tongue is to guard the seed, to ensure it is not dug up, trampled, or scattered before it can bring forth fruit. The decree is a sacred act. It is a command sent forth into the invisible law, and that law moves with exactness to fulfill it. But the law also records every utterance, not just the words of power but the idle chatter, the doubts spoken in jest, the fears voiced in weakness. Each word has vibration, and vibrations intermingle. If the decree is to be preserved, the tongue must be kept from contradicting it. To say, "I am prosperous," and then to complain of lack is to sow weeds among the wheat. To affirm abundance in silence, and then speak fear in conversation is to poison the soil. Guarding the tongue means refusing to allow any word that runs counter to the decree to pass your lips. Words carry weight. They are not empty sounds, but living forces that imprint upon the subconscious mind. The subconscious hears everything spoken and translates it into reality without judgment. It does not distinguish between seriousness and jest, between affirmation and complaint. When you speak lack even in passing, the subconscious records lack. When you speak fear, even lightly, the subconscious records fear. This is why the tongue must be guarded constantly, not occasionally, for every utterance has its mark. The decree must be protected by surrounding it with words that support and sustain, never with words that oppose or undo. Guarding the tongue is also guarding against the influence of others. The decree is vulnerable in its early stages, like a seedling just breaking through the soil. To speak it openly before those who doubt is to expose it to cold winds. Their words of disbelief may weaken your faith, and once you repeat their doubts aloud, the decree is compromised. To guard the tongue is to keep silence when tempted to defend, explain, or justify the decree to others. Silence is a shield, and secrecy is protection. The law needs no defense from critics, it needs only your unwavering word and your disciplined silence. The tongue must be trained, for it has long been accustomed to idle speech. Most people let words fall carelessly, unaware of their power. They exaggerate, complain, joke at their own expense, and speak lightly of misfortune, never realizing that each word plants a seed. To guard the tongue is to end this carelessness, to take responsibility for every utterance, to make the tongue a servant of truth rather than a servant of habit. This discipline may feel difficult at first, but with practice it becomes natural, and soon the tongue speaks only life, only abundance, only harmony. Guarding the tongue does not mean speaking less of good, it means refusing to speak of lack. One may affirm prosperity often, speak gratitude continually, declare health and joy daily, but when it comes to doubt, fear, criticism, or complaint, the tongue must be kept still. This selective silence preserves the decree. It is like tending a garden: water the flowers, pull the weeds, but never neglect the soil. The soil of speech must be kept pure if the flowers of prosperity are to bloom. Guarding the tongue also means guarding against contradiction within yourself. It is not only the words spoken to others that matter, but also the words whispered to yourself in quiet moments. Self-talk is still speech, and the subconscious records it as faithfully as any outward word. To affirm one thing aloud and deny it inwardly is to create confusion in the law. The decree must be consistent, inside and outside, in public and in private. Guard the inner tongue as carefully as the outer one, for both create vibration, and both direct the law. The decree once spoken gathers energy each time it is supported by words in harmony with it. Every declaration of abundance strengthens the decree of prosperity. Every expression of gratitude nourishes it. Every word of faith waters it. To guard the tongue is to continually feed the decree with supporting words while refusing to starve it with contradiction. Words are like currents of energy. Some push the decree forward, others pull it back. Guarding the tongue means allowing only forward currents, never backward ones. A guarded tongue produces a guarded mind, and a guarded mind produces a guarded life. When you become watchful of words, you become watchful of thoughts, for words and thoughts are twins. To stop careless speech is to weaken careless thinking, and soon the mind itself becomes disciplined, aligned with the decree. Out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks, and out of the abundance of speech the life is shaped. By guarding the tongue, you are not only protecting the decree, but also transforming the entire state of consciousness into one that supports it. The law of prosperity is precise, and precision requires discipline. Just as an architect does not scribble lines at random, but draws carefully, so must you speak carefully, knowing that each word is a line in the structure of your reality. Idle speech is like careless strokes on a blueprint. They distort the design. Guarding the tongue ensures that the blueprint remains clear, strong, and aligned with the desired outcome. The decree is the cornerstone, and every word thereafter is a supporting stone. To speak carelessly is to weaken the wall, but to guard the tongue is to build with strength. Guarding the tongue also prevents the misuse of imagination. Many people speak their fears into being, rehearsing disaster aloud until it becomes inevitable. They describe what they dread as though it were already real, painting vivid pictures with words that the subconscious faithfully carries out. To guard the tongue is to refuse to give voice to fear, to deny it the power of speech. Fear may knock at the door of the mind, but if it is not spoken, it cannot enter fully. The decree is protected when fear is kept unspoken, unacknowledged, and denied the energy of words. The practice of guarding the tongue creates an atmosphere of power around you. Others will feel the strength of your speech, the weight of your words, the clarity of your declarations. A guarded tongue speaks less but means more, for each word carries the vibration of intention. People who scatter words carelessly are seldom believed, but those who guard their tongue are listened to with respect. The same principle applies to the law of prosperity. It responds not to many words but to meaningful ones, not to chatter but to command. Guarding the tongue ensures that each word you speak carries the full force of your decree. Every great fortune begins not with money but with a thought, a seed sown in the fertile soil of the imagination. The invisible always precedes the visible. What you see in your outer world is but a reflection of the rich or barren garden within. If you wish to become rich in 2026, you must first learn to think richly, to speak richly, and to expect richly. For no man or woman can draw to themselves what they secretly deny in heart or in word. The law of prosperity is not a trick of fate. It is a law as certain as gravity. There are those who believe that riches are a matter of chance, of inheritance, or of favor. But life is not a gamble, it is a mirror, returning to each one the exact measure of their belief. When you say, "I can't afford it," you are closing the door to abundance. When you say, "Money comes to me in perfect ways," you are flinging that same door wide open. The universe hears every word, and like an obedient servant, it sets out to fulfill it. Your spoken word is your wand, and your faith is the magic that brings it to life. The world of 2026 waits like a blank canvas, ready to be painted with the colors of your conviction. The old order of fear, scarcity, and doubt has no power unless you give it power. The truly rich man does not chase wealth, he magnetizes it. He knows that every opportunity, every idea, every divine hunch is a golden thread leading him toward greater supply. He does not say, "I am poor," for that is to command poverty to remain. He says instead, "I am open to receive the lavish abundance of the universe." To become rich, you must cleanse your mind of resentment, for resentment blocks the flow of prosperity. You cannot attract what you criticize. If you envy the wealth of another, you are declaring that you yourself cannot have it. But when you bless the success of others, you draw success nearer to yourself. Every time you give thanks, you multiply your good. Gratitude is the key that unlocks the treasure chest of heaven. You are not a beggar in a world of limited supply. You are a child of an infinite source, heir to all that is good, beautiful, and bountiful. The riches you seek are already yours in the unseen realm, awaiting your recognition. The moment you claim your good and act as though it were already here, the law begins to move. Doors open, ideas flow, people appear, and what seemed impossible becomes natural. The substance of money is spiritual, and it takes shape according to your word. Therefore, speak with authority, think with confidence, and walk with the quiet assurance that all you need is being added unto you now. To think richly is to dwell in the consciousness of abundance, to hold within the mind a vision so luminous and steadfast that it draws to itself the forms and opportunities of wealth. The mind is the workshop of creation, the silent architect shaping the visible world. Every structure of success or failure begins there, in the inner kingdom of thought. When one learns to think richly, one learns to govern life rather than to be governed by it. Poverty, struggle, and limitation are not conditions, but mental habits that have been rehearsed until they seem real. To reverse them, one must begin by changing the inner picture, for the universe reflects faithfully what the mind impresses upon it. Thinking richly does not mean merely wishing for more money. It is not the anxious repetition of desire, but the calm recognition that all good is already present in invisible form. The rich thinker knows that abundance is not something to chase, but something to accept. He aligns his thought with divine supply, knowing that the same intelligence that formed the stars also moves through his affairs. When thought becomes attuned to this infinite source, circumstances rearrange themselves to mirror that harmony. Money, ideas, people, and timing begin to flow in perfect sequence, as though guided by an unseen hand. Many people think in terms of lack without realizing it. They say, "I don't have enough," "it's too hard," or "maybe someday." Each of these thoughts plants a seed of limitation. The soil of the subconscious never judges. It simply grows whatever is sown. If the seed is lack, the harvest will be lack. To think richly, one must consciously plant different seeds. Thoughts such as, "I always have what I need," "I live in a universe of infinite supply," or "divine ideas prosper me now," create a vibration that draws corresponding results. The mind must be trained to dwell on plenty, to picture success, to speak words of confidence even when appearances suggest otherwise. A rich thinker understands that the invisible precedes the visible. Just as a gardener prepares the soil before the harvest, so must one prepare the mind before wealth can appear. There is no outer prosperity that can endure unless it rests on the inner foundation of faith. When a person worries about bills, debt, or scarcity, they are watering weeds instead of flowers. But when they give thanks for the abundance already flowing, even in small measure, they multiply their good. Gratitude is the fertilizer of prosperity. It transforms ordinary thought into magnetic power. To think richly is also to detach from fear. Fear is the great thief of fortune, the shadow that dims the light of possibility. A fearful mind sees obstacles, a rich mind sees opportunities. When one believes that the universe is abundant, every seeming obstacle becomes a stepping stone to greater supply. The rich thinker refuses to entertain the idea of failure, knowing that even setbacks are part of the divine design leading to success. He trusts the timing of events, understanding that impatience blocks the flow, while confidence keeps it moving. The thought of richness must become natural, habitual, unquestioned. It must be carried through the day like a melody that plays quietly beneath every activity. When you walk, think richly. When you speak, speak richly. When you plan, plan richly. The tone of your thoughts becomes the tone of your life. Just as a magnet draws iron filings, a rich consciousness draws wealth. This is not superstition, but the operation of spiritual law. The law is impartial. It gives to each according to his belief. The one who thinks in scarcity will always find proof of scarcity, while the one who thinks in abundance will always find proof of abundance. To cultivate rich thinking, one must purify the mind from envy and comparison. When you compare your life to others, you affirm lack within yourself. The rich thinker blesses the prosperity of others, knowing that it affirms his own. He does not compete, he creates. He does not grasp, he allows. He knows that his supply comes not from people, jobs, or markets, but from the infinite source that operates through all these channels. When one stops clinging to outer forms, the inner flow becomes unblocked, and prosperity finds new ways to appear. Thinking richly also requires discipline of speech. Every word carries vibration. When you say, "I can't," you shut a door. When you say, "I can and I will," you open 1,000. The rich thinker chooses words carefully, for he knows that speech crystallizes thought. He never speaks defeat or poverty into existence. Instead, he speaks affirmations of success, even when conditions seem barren. His words are creative commands to the universe. They go forth and shape reality. The power of the spoken word, united with the conviction of the heart, produces results that no mere effort could achieve. A mind trained in richness is never disturbed by appearances. If business is slow, he affirms divine activity working behind the scenes. If money seems delayed, he knows that divine timing is perfect. He does not allow outer conditions to dictate his inner state. He keeps his thoughts steady, his faith unshaken, and his imagination radiant with images of good. This steadiness of mind is what opens the way for miracles to occur, for when thought is steady, the law can operate without interference. Rich thinking is not arrogance or self-deception. It is the humble acknowledgement of divine abundance as one's rightful inheritance. It is seeing oneself as a co-creator with the infinite, not a victim of circumstance. The rich thinker expects good because he knows that the universe is orderly and just. He does not plead or beg for blessings, he claims them. He does not strive in tension, he receives in faith. His mind is a clear channel through which prosperity flows freely. To think richly is to live richly, not merely in possessions but in peace, confidence, and joy. It is to feel inwardly supported by the unseen current of supply that never fails. It is to know that every good thing you desire already exists in substance and awaits your recognition. The moment you think richly and persist in that thought, you begin to build the invisible structure of your future. Your ideas become living seeds, your emotions the sunlight, your faith the rain. In due time the harvest comes, abundant and overflowing, because the law has no choice but to bring forth according to the pattern impressed upon it. Thus the mind that thinks richly becomes a magnet for opportunities, for people who uplift, for circumstances that align perfectly with its vision. It ceases to struggle and begins to flow. It ceases to doubt and begins to know. The power of rich thought transforms limitation into possibility, delay into preparation, and lack into abundance. To think richly is to remember one's divine nature, a creator, not a creature of chance, and to stand calmly in the assurance that what is held firmly in thought must eventually take form in the world of matter. Your words create your wealth, for every word you speak sets a vibration into motion that echoes through the unseen and shapes the visible. The universe is obedient to sound, to the tone of belief carried upon the breath. What you speak, you decree. What you decree, you create. Each word is a seed, and the soil is the infinite intelligence that never questions, only fulfills. Many people speak carelessly, unaware that their idle chatter forms the blueprint of their lives. They talk of lack, of struggle, of limitation, and wonder why their affairs mirror these conditions. Yet, the law is exact. Words of fear draw fearful experiences. Words of confidence summon opportunity. To change your world, you must change your speech, for your speech is the bridge between thought and manifestation. When one speaks, the vibration of sound carries energy into the field of form. Words are not merely symbols, but living forces. Every affirmation of good strengthens your alignment with abundance, while every complaint weakens it. The tongue can be an instrument of creation or destruction. The wise use it as a wand of power. They understand that prosperity begins with the language of prosperity. The one who continually says, "I can't afford it," is binding himself to that truth, while the one who declares, "Money comes to me easily and frequently," is opening channels unseen. The universe listens without judgment and says, "It is done unto you as you believe." Your words reveal your faith or your fear. They are the outward expression of your inner conviction. To say, "I am blessed," even when appearances suggest otherwise, is to call forth blessings from the invisible. To say, "I am struggling," even in jest, is to command struggle to persist. The law does not distinguish between serious speech and idle talk. Every word counts. The rich in spirit are careful stewards of their language. They speak only of what they wish to increase. They never magnify the problem. They magnify the solution. They do not describe what is, they declare what shall be. For the moment you name a condition, you give it life. The moment you deny its power, you begin to dissolve it. When you understand that your words are creative, you become deliberate in your conversation. You cease to discuss failure or lack. You no longer complain of what others have done or failed to do. You speak life, you speak good, you speak increase. Every statement becomes a prayer, and every prayer a command. If you wish to be rich, your speech must align with riches. You cannot use the vocabulary of poverty and expect the results of prosperity. Words are containers for energy, and energy obeys the tone in which it is sent. Speak of abundance with the feeling of certainty, and the invisible forces of the universe will conspire to match your tone. There is a sacred rhythm to words spoken with conviction. They move through time and space like arrows, seeking the mark of their intention. When a person declares, "Everything I touch prospers," that vibration carries forth to touch every transaction, every idea, every encounter. The declaration precedes the demonstration. The spoken word sets the spiritual mechanism into motion. It is not magic but law. As sure as an echo returns to the voice that sent it, your words return to you in the form of your experiences. The outer world is merely a reflection of your inner conversation. Change your language, and the reflection changes. Your words are the guardians of your faith. If you speak in contradiction to your desire, you weaken your magnetism. To say, "I want wealth," but then follow with "it's so hard to make money," is to cancel your command. The law of mind does not work through confusion. It works through clarity and certainty. Therefore, let your word be consistent. Let it be strong, unwavering, and rooted in the knowing that all good already exists. When you speak with authority, not arrogance but assurance, you impress upon the subconscious mind a pattern that the universe rushes to fulfill. The subconscious does not argue. It obeys the tone of feeling behind the word. The secret is to feel the truth of your words as you speak them. Empty affirmations carry no power, but words infused with emotion ignite creation. When you say, "I am prosperous," feel the joy of prosperity as though it were already yours. When you say, "Everything I desire flows to me in divine order," imagine the smooth unfolding of events aligning in your favor. The feeling gives the word life. Without feeling, words are but dry echoes. With feeling, they become living commands. The universe responds to vibration, not to empty sound. To create wealth through your words, you must also learn the silence between them. Silence is the womb where spoken words are gestated. After you speak your affirmations, rest in quiet expectancy. Do not contradict your declaration with doubt or complaint. The word once spoken continues to work in the unseen, gathering substance, arranging circumstances, and preparing the visible result. The gardener does not dig up the seed to see if it is growing, he trusts the process. So too must you trust your word. Once spoken with conviction, it begins its perfect work. Many people misuse their speech by repeating stories of limitation. They talk endlessly about debts, the high cost of living, or the difficulty of success. In doing so, they renew the pattern of lack day after day. Yet a single statement of truth, held steadily, can dissolve years of error. To say, "I live in a universe of limitless supply," with unwavering belief, is to erase the imprint of fear from the subconscious mind. Words of truth, repeated with faith, become spiritual fire that burns away old conditions. They elevate consciousness, and the elevated consciousness attracts new experiences. You must guard your conversation as carefully as you would guard a treasure chest. Do not lend your words to gossip, complaint, or criticism. Such speech drains the power that could otherwise be used for creation. Speak only of the good you wish to see, for whatever you speak of, you invite. Bless your affairs, bless your work, bless your finances, bless every person who crosses your path. Words of blessing multiply, words of bitterness multiply struggle. The energy you send out returns amplified. Therefore, let your speech be a stream of life-giving power, uplifting and renewing everything it touches. To speak richly is to live richly. It is to choose words that affirm beauty, order, and abundance. When faced with adversity, the rich thinker does not speak defeat, he declares victory. When confronted with delay, he says, "Divine timing is perfect." When something appears lost, he says, "Nothing good can be taken from me, it returns in better form." These words become shields against fear and magnets for supply. The consistent use of constructive language reshapes consciousness until wealth becomes a natural expression of being. Every fortune begins with a declaration. Somewhere, someone said, "I can do this," "I will prosper," or "this idea will succeed." The word was spoken and the word created. The same power dwells in every individual. You do not need to strive for it or earn it. You need only to use it rightly. Your tongue is your instrument of creation. Use it with awareness. Speak as though your words are living things, for indeed they are. Each one carries the essence of your belief and returns to you clothed in form. To master your speech is to master your destiny. Gratitude multiplies abundance because it aligns the mind with the infinite source from which all good flows. It is the quiet recognition that everything you have, everything you are, and everything yet to come is part of a divine order that never fails. When gratitude becomes the natural language of your heart, prosperity becomes inevitable. It is not merely a polite response to blessings received, but a spiritual vibration that draws more good into being. Gratitude opens the invisible doors through which abundance enters, for no blessing can flow into a closed or complaining heart. When you give thanks, you declare to the universe, "I have received," and the law responds by sending more to match that vibration of fullness. A grateful mind is a magnet for miracles. It sees opportunity where others see lack, beauty where others see plainness, and progress where others see delay. Gratitude sharpens perception. It reveals the hidden good that waits behind every circumstance. The ungrateful mind lives in shadow, blind to the richness surrounding it. It complains, it resists, it expects little and receives accordingly. But the one who gives thanks in advance for unseen blessings calls them forth from the invisible realm. Gratitude is faith made visible through emotion. It is the heart's affirmation that good is already on its way, even before the evidence appears. When you wake in the morning and give thanks for life, for breath, for opportunity, you align yourself with divine law. You begin your day not as a beggar seeking favor, but as an heir acknowledging inheritance. Every thought of appreciation sends a signal to the universe. This soul knows its wealth. The law of increase immediately responds, for the universe cannot resist a thankful heart. Gratitude is not passive, it is creative. It multiplies whatever it touches. If you give thanks for money, your money increases. If you give thanks for friendship, your friendships deepen. If you give thanks for ideas, inspiration flows more freely. The energy of gratitude expands the object of its focus, just as sunlight causes flowers to bloom. Those who lack gratitude often believe they have little to be thankful for, yet their very belief keeps them in limitation. Gratitude must come before abundance, not after. To say, "I will be thankful when I am rich," is to postpone wealth indefinitely. The rich in spirit say instead, "I am thankful now for the abundance that already surrounds me." They give thanks for the small coin as for the great fortune, for they know the essence is the same. A thankful thought is a seed of prosperity. Each time it is planted, it grows in silence, expanding its roots through the soil of faith until it breaks forth as visible supply. True gratitude has nothing to do with circumstances. It does not depend upon possessions or outward success. It is the recognition of the divine good at work even in the midst of trial. When challenges arise, the grateful soul says, "There is good in this, though I do not yet see it." That attitude turns obstacles into stepping stones, delays into preparation, losses into greater gain. Gratitude transforms perception, and perception shapes reality. To the grateful heart, nothing is wasted, nothing is lost, nothing is meaningless. Everything becomes part of the unfolding abundance that life continually offers. Gratitude is a powerful cleanser of the mind. It dissolves resentment, envy, and fear, all the emotions that block prosperity. You cannot feel thankful and fearful at the same time. You cannot bless and curse in the same breath. When you give thanks, your attention moves from what is missing to what is present, and that shift opens the channel of supply. Many wonder why their affirmations fail, yet their hearts are filled with complaint. The law of abundance cannot work through ingratitude. It is like trying to draw fresh water through a clogged pipe. Gratitude clears the obstruction and allows the current of good to flow freely once more. To cultivate gratitude, begin with what lies nearest. Give thanks for your home, no matter how small. Give thanks for the food before you, for the air that fills your lungs, for the sunlight that warms your face. As you give thanks for what you have, you awaken to the richness already in your possession. Gratitude is not about accumulation, but awareness. The more aware you become of the goods surrounding you, the more you attract similar good. Life mirrors your inner state. A thankful mind sees increase in every direction. An ungrateful mind sees only deficiency. Gratitude is also a form of trust. When you give thanks for what has not yet appeared, you demonstrate faith in divine order. You affirm that unseen forces are already working for your good. That trust magnetizes results. The grateful heart does not chase after supply, it rests in assurance that supply is already on its way. Every expression of thanks strengthens this confidence until worry and doubt dissolve. Gratitude, then, becomes a shield against fear. It anchors you in peace, for it reminds you that you are never without support, never without provision, never without the love of the universe flowing through every detail of your life. When you speak words of gratitude, speak them with feeling. Let your words vibrate with genuine appreciation, not mere recitation. Say, "Thank you for this day," with the warmth of one who truly means it. Say, "I am grateful for the money that flows to me," as if you could already feel its presence in your hands. The emotion behind gratitude gives it life. Empty words carry little power, but heartfelt thanks open unseen gates. The energy of sincerity travels outward and draws back multiplied blessings. The universe listens to the tone of the heart more than the form of the words. A grateful attitude also harmonizes relationships. When you express appreciation for others, you amplify the good within them. Gratitude heals misunderstandings and strengthens bonds. To be thankful for the people around you is to recognize the divine in them, and that recognition calls forth their higher nature. In the same way, to give thanks for your work, no matter how humble, invites greater opportunity. The thankful worker attracts promotion, for his spirit radiates competence and joy. Employers, clients, and partners feel this unseen magnetism and respond to it naturally. Gratitude silently communicates success long before it is visible. The habit of gratitude should be constant, not occasional. It is not something to practice only when things go well, but a way of thinking that sustains you through all seasons. Every breath can become a prayer of thanks. Every challenge can become a reason to trust more deeply. The mind that lives in gratitude is never impoverished, for it draws beauty and meaning from everything. To walk through the world giving thanks is to walk in harmony with the creative power that made it. It is to see life not as a struggle for survival, but as a ceaseless outpouring of generosity from an infinite source. Gratitude multiplies abundance because it keeps attention on the truth of sufficiency rather than the illusion of lack. It teaches the mind to expect good instead of fearing loss. The thankful person lives in the vibration of having, not wanting. That vibration attracts more of the same. The universe, ever responsive, fills the vessel that is open and appreciative. When the heart is full of thanks, it cannot remain empty of blessings. Gratitude is the language of wealth, spoken fluently by all who prosper in spirit and in substance. Release resentment to free prosperity, for resentment is the invisible chain that binds the soul to limitation. It is the silent poison that corrodes peace, clouds vision, and blocks the natural flow of abundance. Prosperity is not merely a matter of effort or opportunity. It is the result of inner harmony. When the heart is burdened with bitterness or unforgiveness, it cannot act as a clear channel for divine supply. The energy that could draw wealth and success is trapped in the vibration of resistance. To release resentment is to clear the path through which good can flow freely once again. Resentment is born from the false belief that someone has taken from you something that was rightfully yours. Yet, in truth, nothing good can ever be taken from you, and nothing that belongs to you by divine right can ever be lost. Every experience, even those that seem unjust, carries within it a hidden blessing, a lesson that refines the soul and deepens understanding. When you hold on to anger or grievance, you anchor yourself to the past and block the present good that seeks to reach you. The universe cannot deliver new gifts into hands that are tightly clenched around old wounds. To release resentment does not mean to condone wrong or pretend harm did not occur. It means to withdraw your energy from the memory of injury and to reclaim your power from the past. It means to stop rehearsing the pain, to stop speaking of it, to stop identifying with it as part of your story. When you release resentment, you break the magnetic tie between yourself and the very conditions you dislike. Whatever you resent, you hold in your consciousness, and whatever you hold in consciousness, you continue to attract. The act of forgiveness, therefore, is not for the other's benefit, but for your own liberation. It is the gateway through which prosperity enters. A mind filled with resentment is like a garden, overrun with weeds. The soil is fertile, but the energy of growth is consumed by that which bears no fruit. No amount of effort or positive thinking can bring lasting results until the weeds are cleared. The law of abundance operates through mental clarity and emotional balance. When you forgive, you restore both. You free your attention to dwell on constructive ideas. You make room for inspiration, opportunity, and divine guidance to reach you. Forgiveness is the spiritual act of decluttering the heart. Once the clutter is gone, the light of prosperity can shine unobstructed. Many people resist forgiveness because they believe it makes them weak. Yet forgiveness is the highest expression of strength. It is the courage to choose peace over pride, freedom over bondage. Resentment drains vitality. It keeps the mind replaying the same scene until energy is depleted. Forgiveness restores that energy. It lifts the vibration, renews confidence, and opens the channels of intuition. When you forgive, you step into alignment with the creative forces of the universe. The law of attraction begins to respond instantly, bringing experiences that mirror the new state of freedom. Resentment not only affects emotions, but also influences material conditions. It can block business success, delay payments, or create misunderstanding in partnerships. The energy of anger, whether hidden or expressed, sends out discordant vibrations that interfere with prosperity. The moment you release resentment, harmony begins to return. The right people appear, the right opportunities unfold, the flow of money resumes. The outer world rearranges itself to match the inner healing. This is not coincidence, it is law. Every act of forgiveness clears a space for new abundance to enter. If you wish to free prosperity in your life, examine your thoughts for any trace of bitterness, perhaps toward a friend, an employer, a family member, or even yourself. Self-resentment is as destructive as resentment toward others. Many people unconsciously punish themselves for past mistakes, denying themselves joy and success as if suffering were atonement. But divine law does not demand punishment. It offers correction. To forgive yourself is to accept that growth is the purpose of experience. You acted with the understanding you had at the time. Now, with greater awareness, you choose differently. This choice releases the burden and restores your creative power. The practice of forgiveness must be intentional and consistent. Begin by affirming, "I freely forgive everyone and everything that has ever hurt or disappointed me. I release the past and open the way for divine abundance to flow." Say it not once, but often, until the words sink beneath the surface of resistance and soften the hardened places within. Visualize the person or situation that troubles you and see it surrounded by light. Imagine that light dissolving all cords of resentment, all feelings of injustice or anger. Breathe deeply and feel the relief that comes when the heart lets go. In that release, you make room for miracles. It is also helpful to bless the one you forgive. Blessing transforms energy instantly. When you say, "I bless and release you," you affirm that both you and the other are free to move forward in peace. The act of blessing lifts the entire situation out of the realm of conflict and into divine order. You no longer vibrate at the frequency of the problem, you rise to the level where solutions appear naturally. Every blessing spoken in sincerity multiplies good for both giver and receiver. It creates a current of harmony that carries prosperity on its tide. Resentment is the opposite of gratitude. Where gratitude multiplies abundance, resentment divides it. Gratitude says, "Life is generous," while resentment says, "Life has cheated me." The universe mirrors whichever belief you hold. When you release resentment, you restore the grateful state, and abundance begins to multiply once again. The two emotions cannot coexist. To dwell on gratitude is to dissolve resentment automatically. Whenever anger arises, turn immediately to gratitude. Say, "I am thankful that this experience is teaching me something valuable." That single thought shifts energy from contraction to expansion. Releasing resentment also restores clarity of mind. Bitterness clouds perception. It keeps you focused on limitation rather than possibility. When the fog of anger lifts, inspiration flows again. You begin to see new paths, new ideas, new connections that were hidden while the heart was heavy. The creative intelligence within you becomes active, guiding you to actions that produce tangible results. Forgiveness clears the lens through which you view the world, and as the view changes, so does the world itself. To live without resentment is to live lightly. It is to move through life unburdened by the weight of old emotions. It is to wake each morning free to create anew, unchained from yesterday's injuries. This lightness naturally attracts prosperity, because prosperity is a high vibration, and like attracts like. The universe responds not to your words alone, but to your emotional state. A forgiving heart vibrates at the frequency of abundance. It radiates openness, peace, and trust, the very qualities that draw success, opportunity, and wealth. Forgiveness is not a single act, but a way of being. It is a continual releasing, a daily choice to let go of whatever disturbs your peace. Each time you forgive, you reclaim a piece of your energy, and with each reclamation, your creative power grows stronger. Prosperity is the outward reflection of that inner power. The freer you become from resentment, the more freely wealth can circulate through your life. Every grudge dropped, Every hurt released becomes a stepping stone toward greater good. When you forgive, you align with divine justice rather than human revenge. You trust that the law of balance will restore harmony in perfect ways without your interference. This trust allows you to focus on creation rather than correction, on building rather than blaming. The moment you surrender the need to judge or retaliate, you open the way for divine compensation, often greater than anything you imagine. The universe never leaves a void. Whatever is released in forgiveness is replaced by something richer, higher, and more beautiful. Thus, to release resentment is to unlock the treasury of life. It is to move from the vibration of conflict to the vibration of harmony, from constriction to flow. Prosperity cannot dwell where anger resides, but it rushes eagerly to the heart that forgives. When you let go of resentment, you open your hands to receive. When you bless those who wronged you, you bless yourself. When you choose peace over grievance, you set wealth free to find you through channels expected and unexpected. Faith, not fear, unlocks divine supply, for faith is the invisible bridge between desire and manifestation, while fear is the shadow that blocks the path. Every thought you hold is either a prayer of faith or a declaration of fear, and the universe responds accordingly. Faith is the knowing beyond reason, the quiet certainty that what you seek already exists in the unseen, waiting for your recognition. Fear is the denial of that truth, the illusion that you are separate from your source. When faith rules the mind, circumstances rearrange in perfect order. When fear dominates, the flow of abundance is interrupted, for fear contracts what faith expands. Faith is not blind hope, it is spiritual understanding. It is the deep awareness that divine law is always at work, even when appearances contradict it. Faith does not waver at delays or setbacks, because it knows that delay is not denial but preparation. It does not measure good by what the eyes see or the hands hold. It rests in the assurance that supply is infinite, that every need is met through divine intelligence acting in perfect timing. Fear, on the other hand, thrives on appearances. It whispers of loss, scarcity, and uncertainty. It feeds upon doubt and multiplies it until the mind is paralyzed. The moment you allow fear to take root, you begin to attract the very conditions you dread. Faith operates through vibration, and its vibration is high, pure, and magnetic. When you are in faith, your thoughts, emotions, and words align with abundance. You think clearly, act decisively, and attract opportunities effortlessly. Fear lowers the vibration. It clouds judgment and distorts perception. A fearful mind cannot hear divine guidance, for fear is noise that drowns out intuition. The universe speaks softly through faith, guiding with subtle impressions, inspired ideas, and synchronicities. When you trust, you are in harmony with that voice. When you fear, you block it. Faith opens the channel, fear closes it. To live by faith is to step beyond appearances. You may look around and see lack, yet faith says, "There is supply here I have not yet recognized." You may face difficulty, yet faith whispers, "This too is part of the unfolding good." Faith transforms obstacles into opportunities because it looks beyond the visible to the spiritual cause behind all things. Fear magnifies the obstacle, making it seem insurmountable. Faith dissolves it by withdrawing belief from limitation. Whatever you cease to believe in loses power over you. Whatever you affirm in faith begins to take form. Every act of creation begins in faith. The inventor, the artist, the entrepreneur, all must first believe in what is unseen. The seed of the idea must be held firmly in imagination before it can manifest in the physical world. The same law applies to wealth. You must first see yourself as abundant, worthy, and capable before abundance can appear. Faith builds that inner image and sustains it through periods when outer results have not yet caught up. Fear destroys the image by constant doubt. The one who maintains faith, even in silence, commands the invisible forces of prosperity to continue their perfect work. Faith is strengthened through practice. It grows with use, just as muscles grow through exercise. Every time you choose faith over fear, You deepen your connection to divine supply. Start with small acts of trust. Believe that what you need today will come easily, that the right person will appear, that the perfect opportunity will reveal itself. As these small evidences accumulate, confidence expands. Soon faith becomes your natural state and fear finds no foothold. Fear cannot survive in the atmosphere of continual gratitude and trust. The language of faith is affirmation, the language of fear is complaint. When you speak words of confidence, you give life to your desire. When you speak words of worry, you give life to your limitation. Faith says, "Everything I need is on its way." Fear says, "What if it never comes?" Faith opens the door, fear bolts it shut. The wise choose their words carefully, knowing that each one is a seed. Speak from faith even when appearances tempt you to speak from fear. Say, "I am supplied, I am guided, I am prospered," until these truths take root in the subconscious mind. Faith also requires surrender. It is the willingness to release control and trust that divine intelligence knows the way better than the limited human mind. Fear clings, grasps, and forces outcomes. Faith lets go and allows. When you surrender fear, you stop obstructing the flow. The current of divine supply can then carry you smoothly toward fulfillment. The river does not need to push itself forward, it flows naturally. So too does prosperity when you trust. Fear makes the river stagnant by damming it with doubt. Faith removes the barrier and lets life flow. Faith lives in the present moment, while fear lives in the past and future. Fear replays old failures and imagines future losses, draining energy from the now, the only point of creation. Faith anchors you in the eternal present, where divine power is active. When you say, "I trust that my needs are met now," you align with that power. When you say, "I hope things will improve someday," you postpone your good. Faith claims it's good now, fear waits and worries. The difference between the two is not circumstance but consciousness. Faith and fear cannot occupy the same space. The mind must choose which to serve. If you feed fear with attention, it grows strong. If you feed faith with affirmation, gratitude, and quiet reflection, it becomes the dominant force. Train your mind to shift focus the moment fear arises. Replace every fearful thought with a statement of truth. There is only abundance. I am supported by divine order. All is well. Each substitution weakens fear's hold. Over time, faith becomes automatic, a steady inner knowing that no appearance can shake. Faith is creative because it is aligned with the laws of life. Life is expansive by nature, always seeking to express more. Fear resists expansion, it contracts. When you live in faith, you cooperate with life's upward movement. You expect increase, and increase becomes your experience. Opportunities come not through struggle, but through resonance. Faith magnetizes conditions of ease because it mirrors the generosity of the universe. Fear repels them because it vibrates with lack. The law is impartial. It simply returns to you what you project. The most powerful faith is calm, not forceful. It does not beg or demand, it assumes, it says, it is done. That calm assurance is the hallmark of mastery. Fear scrambles and worries. Faith waits in peace. The moment you rest in faith, you release the need to chase or prove. You become receptive, and receptivity is the open door to supply. The anxious mind tries to make things happen. The faithful mind allows things to unfold. The one who trusts does not strain, for he knows that divine timing is never late. Faith also heals the body and the mind. Fear tightens the heart and clouds the spirit. But faith relaxes, restores, and renews. A peaceful mind allows the energy of life to circulate freely, just as a clear channel allows water to flow. When the energy within you moves without obstruction, creativity awakens. You think of ideas, you notice synchronicities, you act in perfect rhythm with opportunity. This state of flow is the natural result of faith. It is the feeling of being carried rather than burdened. To cultivate unwavering faith, surround yourself with reminders of truth. Read words that uplift, spend time in silence, and observe the evidence of divine order in small things. the rhythm of nature, the constancy of breath, the generosity of life itself. Each observation strengthens your trust that the same power governs your affairs. The more you recognize divine intelligence in the world around you, the less power fear has over you. Fear thrives on forgetfulness. Faith thrives on remembrance. Remember always that you are connected to infinite supply, and that connection can never be broken. Faith, not fear, is the master key to abundance, because it aligns you with the creative principle of the universe. It is the vibration of I have rather than I lack. It opens every door that fear keeps shut. When you walk in faith, the universe walks with you. When you speak in faith, the universe echoes your words. When you act in faith, supply rushes to meet your action. Fear separates, but faith unites. Fear limits, but faith liberates. Fear doubts, but faith unites. Fear limits, but faith unites. Fear doubts, but faith liberates. 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 Fear fates, but faith liberates. Fear doubts, but faith liberates. Fear fates, 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 but faith liberates. And in that knowing lies the secret of divine supply.